Most tax pros leave a message.
It's Jane. I'm moving on to a TurboTax expert who beat your price. Adam Devine, tell him how I feel.
Hey, tax pro, she's been thinking twice. Best believe TurboTax will beat your price. This is a tax break.
Switch to a TurboTax Live expert and we'll beat what you paid your pro last tax season. Make the switch at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice. TurboTax full service only. Sign up by 12/20/2024 and file by 4/1/2025. Full details at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice.
We made it through the weekend. I always like it when they say, we made it through the weekend, as if it was a challenge. Well, those of you that are doing gig jobs or working, or as we broke down over the weekend, saluting those workers that work at Boise State, the concession workers, the security folks, our great friend security guard Mike and others. Thank you very much for your great work. We appreciate that. We're less than, 36 days away from the big election. Does it seem like that to you? We'll get into that. But first, we have Idaho Mike who's called in, first of the day. Idaho Mike, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Kevin. Finally done irrigating. So I got this morning, I thought I'd touch bases with you. Wrote a few things down over the summer. So I was just curious, how do you handle a liar, Kevin?
Well, it depends. In the old days, it would be, you'd condemn them, this, that, and the other. And I don't know, the new days, you go, well, bless their heart, you pray for them, and you move on, I guess.
Wow, that's, I just, busy all summer and stuff. But anyway, I watched and heard and listened about, that the lies that Kamala and that Dr. Jill and that John Claude, whatever her name is, at the White House, the speaker lady.
Sure. Karine Jean-Pierre, yes.
All of them lying about Biden's ability to tie his shoes.
Yes.
Let alone...
Joe Biden.
Yeah, that lady. Throw her in, too. And, I don't know. I think a liar can't be trusted. So I think, Kamala, Miss Harris, whatever you want to call her, can't be trusted, and that's an automatic out.
Well, it would, but a lot of people, again, continue to go on and on and on. It's the cult of personality. It really is. I was trying to share that lesson with young Bo. He'd never heard that song before.
Oh, boy.
I exploit you, still you love me.
Yeah, if you can't trust him, I'm out. I'm not interested. It's you got such great people, callers on your program, Queen Lucille, Captain Harry, and Doug Mountain Home. Those are solid, good folks, and your program is really important. I really enjoy it. Don't call in enough, but I think that once those people lied, Kevin, about Biden's condition.
They did.
Trust your lying eyes? You've been around people with dementia and getting older, and hell, they can no more be president than, like I said, tie their shoes.
I totally agree with you. And then we have the whole thing with Israel blowing up Hamas and Hezbollah, and Joe Biden, on the other hand, just trying to put down Israel and everything else. You think to yourself, come on.
Oh, my gosh. It's, who's our president till we get the new one? We don't have one, right?
Well, and it's funny because Ben Shapiro made a really good comment about this last week, where he was talking about this is the biggest cover-up in the history of the country, where we have
lie?
Yeah, what you're talking about, the big lie.
Yeah. I don't know. You raise your kids not to be liars. You recognize people that are liars. You distance yourself from them. And now we got one that's running for president that said, oh, he's sharp. I can't keep up with him. And okay, come on, folks. We're not voting for cheerleader. We're voting for, the leader of our country. It's, you follow the Venezuela deal a little bit and you see what those people being complacent with their leadership and what happened there.
Yeah,
I tell you, strong leaders is essential. Yeah.
Well, what about you?
Oh, I run my own ship like Captain Harry.
How's my? You ever see Kevin Miller anymore?
Oh yeah, he's a stallion. Yeah. Hey, and I have another fun thing. So Kent Goldthorpe, right? You're pals with him.
KG Kent, yes.
Yeah. So I think there can't be two Kents, right?
Right.
Goldthorpe, no. So about 30 years ago or something, I got tangled up in a bull deal with Kent Goldthorpe.
Now, careful, Kent's listening. He listens.
Oh, no, I'm happy to talk to him.
Yeah.
I mean, he showed great leadership through that deal, and, if you guys are ever in South Nampa, Melba area, Idaho Mike will buy you and Kent lunch, because you are part of the cowboy deal.
We appreciate that. I will. I will let Kent know that.
There's a fine restaurant down there. No, I'm positive that's Kent. I didn't, we were involved in a deal on a bull, and 100%.
Wait a minute, Kent was buying a bull?
Well, we were both owners in a bull that was leased to another company. It was kind of a big deal. Yeah,
I was going to say, I mean, people lease cars. I didn't know you could lease a bull.
Yeah. But Kent was great to work with. The people of Ada County are lucky to have him. He's a smart guy. He's a no BS guy. I'm a fan.
Well, that makes two of us, Idaho Mike.
Yeah. I mean, he's not afraid to say, hey, wait a minute, this ain't right, and that's called leadership, and I think Mr. Goldthorpe's got it. So, yeah. And no news from Al from Ontario.
No, we still have not figured out where Al is.
And the daddy goes, shut up and eat your grasshopper.
You can't make it up, Kevin.
No, I'm with you.
You can't make it up. And Munz, is he still around, Tommy boy?
Tom got a job, so I think he's a civilian now.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Wow, that's... and nothing on our pal Bundy. Really quiet.
He's still in Utah, and I think he started a motor shop with his brother or with somebody, and St. Luke's is going after him still, so that war continues on.
And you said you have a commercial or something on your program, and you got to fight for what's right and stuff, and Mr. Bundy fought for what was right, in my opinion, and this is where it gets him.
Well, as I've always argued on this program, you can only go so far, and, I tell
you, all in is hard to find. Like Lucille said, he's a man of courage, hard to find.
Yeah.
Yeah, and conviction, and had a plan. This morning's news, Camilla, or whatever her name is, said she's kind of backing off a little bit. She's down on the border and snooping around down there, and, maybe we need to be a little tougher down here, and we can't have these people. And oh, really?
Well, Idaho Mike, we appreciate you. Thank you for the call.
You bet. Take care, Kevin, and tell Goldthorpe hi.
I will. We'll tell him all about the bull story. Paulie, you got scooped on being caller number 1 this morning. That never happens. Good morning, and thank you for listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio.
Yeah, stop the presses.
Stop the presses. Yeah.
I thought it was recording.
You thought it was a recording? Thanks, Paulie. Yes.
That's what you get, buddy. Hey, I enjoy hearing other people's views. It doesn't matter whether I'm first or second or 10th. You put on a good show, Kevin, and that's what the thing is. You got to sell some advertising time, and you got to inform us a little bit, and you got to make us laugh. You got a tough job. It's not easy. Don't think for a second out there that listening to this is something simple that he just puts together in the last 10 minutes before he gets on air. What I wanted to I had a chuckle at this one. I understand some people are pretty heartfelt about when they say thoughts and prayers, when some tragedy happens, like the big hurricane that just went through half the United States. And it just so happened that Kamala Harris said it, and I had to chuckle because as a Marxist, she doesn't believe in God.
Right.
She believes in money, but she doesn't believe in God. And I thought it was about as rich as Thurston Howell III when I heard her say that.
Gilligan's Island, yeah.
Yeah, the rich guy, yeah. And so I had that to offer, but they're talking about putting boots on the ground. They've taken them out of Iraq twice, and Obama made a mistake when he did. He acquiesced to Iran and now we're going to have to go in with boots. And, I'm not sorry that we have to go in with boots and take care of the job once and for all. I'm just sorry about the lost souls and the lost lives of the American servicemen and women that are going to be in harm's way. But, something's got to be done about Iran, and I've been saying that for 44 years, excuse me. And, I'm not really sure which twist and turn it's going to take when they talk about putting boots on the ground, but they're going to have to get that nuke away from Iran. Well,
the problem is that Kamala and Joe, they're afraid of Iran.
Well, is that what you think it is?
Oh, they're afraid. I mean, they bribed them. They did this. They're afraid of the mullahs. And if you take a look at Israel, this is the first time since, we can go back to how Israel destroyed Lebanon and Beirut because they had to. This is the time where we're seeing the return of the Jewish state, the Jewish military, the Jewish people not messing around. I mean, they have figured out that America will not back them, so they're going all in.
Well, they have their survival to count on by themselves, because you look at Joe's words that he used, that it was an ironclad deal that we had with them. And it's not even close to being an ironclad deal that we had with them.
I really don't understand the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party, when we grew up, they were all about Israel. They were all about the Jewish people. And now, no, they're not. And I can remember my friend Pat Buchanan, the greatest commentator ever, the guy that really, a lot of people say, Kevin, what got you into radio? It was Pat Buchanan. It was, and obviously Rush Limbaugh and some great local guys, Howie Chiswick in Ohio. But it was always Patrick Joseph Buchanan. And, you go back to when he was called anti-Semitic one of many times, when he started talking about the Amen corner in Congress, because whatever Israel want, Israel got, both with Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah, I like that show Crossfire, too.
Well, and it's funny, for those people, our friend Ugo and Bo, both young people, it might give them stress and anxiety, but there was a program at one time called Crossfire, where you had Michael Kinsley, a liberal, and you had Patrick J. Buchanan. And look, some of those conservatives, you had John Sununu, former chief of staff, former governor of New Hampshire. You had my boy Bob Novak, one of the greatest, if not the greatest writer of all time, with Buchanan. And they would go after it with these liberals, but it never got to the point where it is today. It never got to the point where it was woke this and woke that and all sorts of craziness. It was one of the most beautiful shows ever. And then they tried to bring it back, and of course, then they have to have this person and that person. It certainly wasn't the same. And that show, Hannity and Combs was based off that. And then Combs had to go because Hannity, finally got big enough to carry the show.
Well, you can't have a show like Crossfire today. It's simple because, one guy's they're both going to be packing weapons on the stage.
Well, but all they do, but today, and Sean brings this up quite a bit. It's, nobody wants, and that's one thing I loved about O'Reilly back in the day. The liberals would come on. Sean Hannity's best shows ever when he was coming up, and Sean Hannity's greatest gift is when he has somebody that disagrees. And I remember during Obama's years, when Obama was running.
Thanks, Obama.
You would have, Robert Gibbs, not the member of the Bee Gees, but Bob Gibbs, who became like the communications director under Obama. He went on with Hannity, and they would go back and forth. That's what's missing from today's politics today.
You're 100% right, as they say nowadays, 100%.
Mega dittos, Rush. Mega dittos.
And that could still be a reality on radio. Not necessarily on TV. TV may not ever be ready for it again, but it could be a reality on radio.
Yeah. Paulie, you have a great day. I agree. Are you working today, or what are you doing, Paulie?
Yeah, we're moving. I think we're moving the cars back from Kmart back to Team Mazda.
Oh, but Team Mazda doesn't do that? You guys do it? They send in the team? How do they do that? So do they give you like a bus and you guys all drive down, and then
we jump in 10 or 11 seat vans, and we all run out, grab a car, and jump in it and drive it back and park it the way they want it parked and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a little while.
I wondered how Team
130 cars, I think.
I wonder how Team Mazda did that. So now we know Paulie's part of the car team.
Yes, I am, Kevin. You're a good man, Kevin. Keep up the good work.
God bless you, Paulie. Thank you.
God bless you. You too.
All right. Bye-bye. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Coming up next, there's one guy, you don't know who he is, but he sure won the Sunday Morning Wars. We'll tell you what he said and really just laid the smackdown on Minnesota Waltz. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Remember, say it slowly, everybody. It's Monday.
KIDO.
Which that really just stole the show. Let's get to House Majority Whip Tom Emmers of Minnesota. I'm not even going to steal the show from this guy. I'm sitting there watching it, and Martha Raddatz giving him a hard time because everybody goes, well, shouldn't you condemn what Donald Trump did? Shouldn't you do this? Shouldn't you do that? This guy has known Minnesota Waltz, otherwise known as Tim Walz. And he knows what a disaster the guy is. That's why he's not talking to anybody. Let's take a listen.
Yeah, Tim's been a complete disaster in Minnesota, and what's happened is he's so good at being this folksy, nice, kind of down-to-earth guy until people get to know him and his policies. I don't know if you know this, but his old congressional district, where he played this character for several years of being kind of a folksy, ag-friendly outdoorsman, he lost it in both of his gubernatorial races, in the last one almost by 10 points. He's not well-liked because once you get to know the real Tim Walz, he's like Gavin Newsom in a flannel shirt.
Wait a minute. Sweet William, can you put that back up? Who is the real Tim Walz?
Oh, the real Tim Walz? He's like Gavin Newsom in a flannel shirt.
Did he say he's Gavin Newsom in a flannel shirt? I love that. That was trending yesterday on Twitter. Walz is Gavin Newsom in a flannel shirt. Folksy, aw shucks. Not the command sergeant major, not ag-friendly, not an outdoorsman. By the way, it seems so odd to me because the Democratic Party for the last 6 years has gone out and ripped people of privilege, white privilege. If there's not a guy who's the poster boy, the poster child for white privilege, it's Minnesota Waltz. But he's Gavin Newsom in a flannel shirt.
Get to know the real Tim Walz. He's like Gavin Newsom in a flannel shirt.
He's Gavin Newsom in a flannel shirt. That won the war. And then, of course, Martha Raddatz going on and on about this. Martha Raddatz saying all sorts of craziness. Let's get you to work safely and on time. KIDO Talk Radio traffic. Hello, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. From the Idaho Pizza Company studio, your traffic on the freeway in good shape, beginning to build just a bit of volume coming out of Canyon County into Ada County, Garrity, getting busy now in Nampa. Don't forget you have that construction downtown Boise on State Street at 18th and down toward the Capitol. Treasure Valley Coffee is celebrating 40 years of serving Southern Idaho business community with the latest coffee equipment and over 80 varieties of coffee. And they now offer bar and restaurant supplies. Check out tvcoffee.com. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
All right, to my two Gen Z producers in the other room, and to you that think, oh, it's just going to be old man yelling, old man Kevin Miller yelling again. This was the funniest thing that happened over the weekend. His name is not Joe Biden anymore. No, his name is not Joe Biden anymore. Remember when the mayor calls him
Joe Biden?
No, his name is not Joe Biden anymore. We have a new name for him. And I want you to listen to this. And again, to the young people that have been forced to be here because they need to make money. So they are here. And I got a couple smiles out of them, which is great. Because this would not be their first thing to do. Probably Bose would be. But Ugo, we're working on him and we're trying to bring him back to our side. However, there was a show at one time called Saturday Night Live. And you could never get the video clip, so everybody would stay up and listen to this. And Saturday Night Live got political, and this was one of the funniest things I've ever heard, and I'm sure you did. If not, this is guaranteed to make you laugh this morning on KIDO Talk Radio. Oof, come on, computer. Come on, Bessie. Oh.
Everyone, we couldn't have gotten here without one man. And his name is Joe Biden. Get on out here, Joe Biden.
Folks, that's right. A lot of people forget I'm president, including me. But guess what? And by the way, I think I did a pretty good job. I passed more bills than any president in history. But folks, we still got work to do, no joke. I'm being serious right now. Come on. And guess what? And by the way, the fact of the matter is, the rich don't pay their fair share. They gotta pay the fair share. We gotta build back better. Build back the better, the better, the better. Build back the better. Can't believe it's not butter.
Thank you, Joe Biden. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. And I just want to say thank you, Joe Biden. Thank you for putting country first and for handing over the reins.
I didn't want to. They made me. And guess what? And by the way, the fact of the matter is, no joke. This is serious right now. I mean, it's serious. Anyway, in conclusion, me and Vice President Harris are the same.
Oh, okay. Ha ha. Great stuff. Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Goodbye, Joe. Goodbye, Biden.
All right, henceforth, his name is Joe Biden. Joe Biden. When life is exceeded by art. Again, you're listening to Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Don't forget our friends at Beacon Plumbing. They say stop freaking call Beacon. BeaconPlumbing.net. You know, I'm taking the shower this morning and I'm thinking of Beacon Plumbing and I'm going, if that hot water heater goes, I'm not freaking, although it will be a little freak for a little while. I'm not one of these guys. I start the day with a cold shower. Not me. Warm showers, certainly. Dependable, reliable plumbing service, Beacon Plumbing, BeaconPlumbing.net. Please tell them Kevin Miller sent you. Fox News brought to you by Beacon Plumbing. And our friend Bronco Blameyer that we had on, hopefully he made it home. Of course, his home happens to be in Boise. And we appreciate the Bronco, and maybe we'll get him back. But again, Boise State takes on, Utah State coming up. And Utah State, pretty good. We'll see what happens. Another member of the Pac-12. A team that will be leaving the Mountain West along with Boise State. And the hype continues. By the way, speaking of the hype, we will put your opportunity to win another pair of tickets by, just by listening to Clay and Buck. That'll be coming up between now and Friday. Again, listen to Clay and Buck for your chance to win tickets to see the Aggies of Utah State come into Boise State. Boise State completing a homestand. And I'm sure they sold a lot of hot dogs. By the way, our website, KIDOTalkRadio.com, we kind of just did a very brief profile thanking people that are working. It's so weird because we have people that are in the service economy and everybody really is in the service commodity or community or economy. Thank you, Sweet William, for that. The service economy, and regardless of what you're doing, even if you have passive income, whether it's real estate or digital smigital, you are in the service economy. You guys a big fan of Dish or DirecTV? No? Well, you two can go back to sleep then. Dish Network is being bought by DirecTV. That's right. So on one hand, we have the Kroger-Albertsons merger that the FTC, let's face it, if the judge decides to rule in their favor, will not be allowed to happen. You have that going on because it would create too much of a monopoly. To me, again, I don't think that mergers are good for anybody, including the local workers, the people that I care about, that care about us, that take care of us each and every day. The people that are, working on Sundays at Albertsons or Fred Meyer, like my relatives and friends are, and I love those people. Those people are great. They certainly make the time go by, and we have, they fight for us, so we're fighting for them. So here you have DirecTV. By the way, is there a bigger boondoggle than paying for DirecTV? I have friends that work at DirecTV. You have people that are, dropping them to go with to go to Dish. And Dish, you've got, A1 right there on the corner of, Fairview and Eagle Road. They do a tremendous job of selling Dish. Remember, we were out there doing a remote for them when DirecTV was fighting with Newsmax. So now, Sling and Dish, they're going to be bought by DirecTV for $1. Apparently, Dish and Sling, I guess they have some type of debt. But if that's not a monopoly, I don't know what is. Well, Kevin, I'm smart. I don't waste money. I just do over the air. I just go back to buying an antenna. You're right about that. But you can't get FS2 or FS1 with an antenna. Yeah, and then you don't have thousands of dollars a year going into buying, cable or satellite or whatever. So just a business story today, what to look out for. If you're getting Dish, hopefully your prices won't go up. Maybe, as Mr. Kroger says, they're going to reduce prices. Just a business story that kind of popped. Another story that popped over the weekend. Did you hear about this? This broke Friday night, and if you were a member of our App Yap Club or you just happened to be scrolling, Boise State doing something that's never been done before. You two know about this? I got two news hounds in the other room there. Bo's just happy that he's not in there by himself this morning. So Boise State canceled their women's volleyball game. Does that sound familiar to you two? Oh, yeah, because you're a member of the Yap Yap Club. You're not, but you're going to say you are? Okay. So Boise State decided that they were not going to play against San Jose State. Apparently, San Jose State has a dude, what is it, Sweet William? Because I always get confused because I'm an old man. See, this is the great thing. You can say things that are controversial but true because you can say, dude, I'm an old man. I've been waiting my entire life to use the old man excuse. And when I see somebody going by and I'm just an old man. Sorry. So Boise State was taking on San Jose State, the Spartans. And apparently there's a real life Spartan on the San Jose State volleyball team, which is a guy a girl that used to be a guy. And one of my guys goes, boy, that person's, that trans woman's attractive. I go, I don't know if they're attractive or not. But Boise State did not say why they canceled the game. Well, because you had Riley Gaines in town, who works for Outkick, it wasn't a local outlet that broke the story. It was Outkick that broke the story, which always disappoints me when we get always outscooped. One thing I'll say, and this guy's not awake now. If he is, send me a DM on Twitter. Don Day of the Boise Dev, that guy did some original research and actually broke down what the deal is between Boise State and the Pac-12, the money and the taxpayer thing. It's a very fascinating thing. But anyway, back to the point. So you have Outkick breaking the story. You have, and by the way, you don't need to search social media. We didn't break the story. We were like everybody else. We're going to work on it. We're going to work on it. And we have the comments by the governor, Congressman Fulcher. Now you have every conservative outlet praising Boise State for doing this. By the way, Boise State probably didn't have a choice because it's against the law to do that in Idaho, and they're a state-sanctioned university. I believe it was Coastal Carolina or another volleyball school that decided not to do this. So my point, by the way, we'd love to hear from you at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Until you have schools like Boise State doing this, you're going to have problems with women who are in transition, men who are in transition to become women playing women's sports at the collegiate and the Olympic level. There is no doubt in my mind. Now, do I think that I could beat up Ronda Rousey? No. Do I think I could, walk up a flight of stairs? Sometimes. However, there's no doubt in my mind when you have men at their peak and women at their peak, the men are going to win no matter how many hormone drugs you take. Now, again, you could talk about Title IX, which I think this flies in the face of. When you have men that transition to women, there's nothing, if you want to do that, go ahead and do it. You're going to have to deal with your maker and the pain and everything else. However, if you're going to do that, you should not be permitted to play against women who are not as strong and not as big and not as fast. As much as we'd like to say there's an egalitarian moment, it would be like me, the equivalent of me going in and playing in the NBA against Shaq. It's not going to happen. Yes, everybody would be laughing, and including myself, but there's no way. And a lot of people, including Kevin Miller, have questioned the motives of Boise State over the years, especially when it comes to big city coffee. However, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, they did a very difficult thing, especially when we're talking about the NCAA, especially when we're talking about the wokes, especially when we're talking about a Democratic administration. They said no. The governor supported them, Congressman Fulcher, Senator Risch, Senator Crapo, and others jumped in. It was funny because, and again, I'm going to try to, next week, I will let you in on a little secret. We are going to New York, once again, to be honored as one of the best local shows in America. Maybe we win the title as we won it 10 years ago. Maybe we don't. I haven't really talked about it this year because nobody likes a loser. Look, I win every day. We win every day by when we're together here on KIDO Talk Radio. But I think when I come back, I don't know if I'm going to be as tough on, well, no, they hate us anyway, the local media. But it was funny because it was Friday afternoon, and you had somebody on one of the stations going, we apologize for, or no, we're on the story, and they gave it 2 sentences because they had already put to bed their news stories. The news business used to be a lot like the radio business. You had people working on the weekends. It was a lifestyle. Today, those people work Sunday to Thursday. If anything happens on Friday or Saturday, wait till Sunday. And that's what happened. Boise State said no to the trans man-woman. And the trans man-woman from San Jose State. Now, they didn't say that. Maybe they just didn't want to play San Jose State. However, everybody jumped on the bandwagon from Ben Shapiro to Governor Little. You can read that story on our website, KIDOTalkRadio.com. And we'd love to get your comments on that. Do you approve of what Boise State did? By saying no. Other news of the day, the new word is not Joe Biden. Remember, it's not Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
It's Joe Biden from Saturday Night Live. And when you're kind of bummed out and you're getting ready for the big debate and everybody's going, oh, Minnesota Waltz is going to be great. Minnesota Waltz is the best. Just think about what happened.
Tim's been a complete disaster in
Minnesota.
And
Tim is a complete disaster.
What's happened is he's so good at being this folksy, nice, kind of down-to-earth guy until people get to know him and his policies. I don't know if you know this, but his old congressional district where he played this character for several years of being kind of a folksy, ag-friendly outdoorsman, he lost it in both of his gubernatorial races. In the last one, almost by 10 points. He's not well-liked because once you get to know the real Tim Walz, he's like Gavin Newsom in a flannel shirt.
He's Gavin Newsom in a flannel shirt. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Don't forget Sean Hannity today at 1, right after Clay and Buck.
KIDO Talk Radio.
Turn up your radio. Here's the Sean Hannity Morning Minute.
How do you have a mindset that allows 11.5 million that we know about, unvetted, illegal immigrants from 180 countries, including Iran, Syria, Egypt, Afghanistan, Venezuela, tens and tens of thousands from China and Russia into our country? People that are part of gangs, we let them in. Convicted felons, no vetting. Is it any surprise so many Americans have been murdered, have been raped, have been victims of violent crime, that these gangs have taken over small towns and cities, and they're being offered free housing, food, health care, and citizenship at the end of the rainbow? But they're hoping that they'll vote Democrat in the end.
Check out the Sean Hannity radio show later today, right here.
You know, out of all the things we can do to maintain and protect our homes, you know what? Getting up on a ladder, cleaning out the gutters, that's the last thing anyone wants to do. I know, I've done it. And right now you can save up to 30% off your entire purchase when you go to leaffilter.com/Hannity. An investment in Leaf Filter is an investment engineered to protect your entire home. Now, the beauty of Leaf Filter is they take care of everything start to finish. Every installation comes with a free inspection, free estimate, and a lifetime guarantee. Now, a Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will clean out, realign, seal your gutters before installing Leaf Filter. Protect your home and never clean out gutters ever again with Leaf Filter. They're America's #1 gutter protection system. And schedule your free inspection. Get up to 30% off your entire purchase when you go to leaffilter.com/Hannity. That's a free inspection up to 30% off. LEAFfilter.com/Hannity. And do it today.
See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount, 1 discount per household.
Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Don't forget our friend Lars Larson coming up. We'll have Lars today at 8. Also, you can catch him today at 4. Lots to talk about. Camilla going to the border, previewing the debate between Minnesota Waltz and the truth teller J.D. Vance. And remember, when we think of Waltz, he's
not well liked because once you get to know the real Tim Walz, he's like Gavin Newsom in a flannel shirt.
He's Gavin Newsom in a flannel shirt. Gavin Newsom in a flannel shirt. A lot of you are wondering, who is Joe Biden? Who is Joe Biden? And if you're just tuning in, Saturday Night Live coming back, you've got Maya Rudolph as Kamala Harris. She's talking to Joe Biden. And remember, again, we always call him Joe Biden. Isn't that correct, Mayor McLean?
Joe Biden.
Again, they've decided to rename him as Joe Biden. That's right. His name is Joe Biden. And the mannerisms, remember Dana Carvey, before a lot of people were born, was doing an impression of George H.W. Bush on Saturday Night Live. And it was spot on. And you can go to YouTube or whatever, and then they have Kamala, and then they have, her husband, and Donald Trump, and J.D. Vance, and all sorts of people. It's nice when they do both sides, but watching that clip was just amazing, and it made you laugh. I love that, Joe Biden. In addition to that, Boise State doing very well. You get a chance to win tickets to see Boise State versus Utah State. Simply listen to Clay and Buck this week. They'll be giving away a pair of tickets. And getting back to the big story involving Boise State, the volleyball team canceled a game against San Jose State because the boys were going to play against the girls, and the girls, or somebody sticking up for the girls, decided no. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. That can't be an easy play for Boise State. And I still wonder, because it's against the law in the state of Idaho, that they decided they were not going to get on the bad side of Brad Little, the governor of the state, who basically said he does agree with Boise State. And whether you like Governor Little or not.
Well, I will tell you, Kevin, in Idaho law, the mortician can arrest the sheriff. And the mortician's a friend of mine. So when you get that job, watch out for my mortician.
Governor Little, during his days or during the pandemic, probably regrets even talking to us. But a lot of conservatives, some people don't like the governor.
It's funny, 80 days ago, I was the most unregulated state in the nation, and now I'm Hitler.
Only in Idaho, sir, but at least you're not Gavin Newsom in a flannel shirt. But the governor, along with a lot of conservative lawmakers, decided to protect the Women in Sports Act. Then he signed an executive order. That stuff, that shenanigans is not going on in Idaho. Now you have the courts litigating it. But it was Governor Little and not Governor DeSantis, our boy. Governor Little did it first, and now other states are following Idaho's example. So when you're talking about this issue at Boise State, your thoughts on it? Again, very shocking in a good way for Boise State to do this. We'll see what the repercussions are and whether or not the NCAA is coming out. Remember, Boise State, very shrewdly, did not say they're canceling because of the Tran man or the Tran woman. They just said they're canceling the game. But everybody assumed it was because of the guy who wants to be a girl. Now, again, we're not coming out against the guy that wants to be the girl. We're just saying that the guy that's playing on the girls' team, oh, my. You two, what are you guys, in your 20s, right? Okay. I bet nobody ever told you you're playing like a girl as growing up, did they? They never did. Oh, they did they? Yeah, I think you're stretching it. But in old man Kevin Miller's day, if they didn't like how you were playing, they'd go, oh, you're playing like a girl. Now you've got some guys that want to play like a girl, be a girl, with the girls. What say you? And you're going, well, Kevin Miller, why is it such a big deal for Boise State to say no to the transgendered athlete? Well, you take a look at what's going on in college football, college athletics, sports in general. Besides Outkick, which broke the story thanks to Riley Gaines and her connections in the state, you're not going to get people that want to take a stand. In other words, you're going to have people taking the stand of Tyreek Hill over the police. You're going to have people saying, well, that's the way it should be. No. There's law and order and there's right and wrong. And Boise State, for all their good, bad, and whatever, they were right on this one. If not, let me know what you think. Good morning, Dave.
Company studio traffic now as you're coming out of Canyon County into Ada County does slow down for you. Garrity getting down toward the freeway, then again at the county line and in the Meridian Road area. Very typical this time of day. Chinna Boulevard right there at the Highway 16 extension project. You do have construction there. Treasure Valley Coffee is celebrating 40 years of serving the southern Idaho business community with the latest coffee equipment at over 80 varieties of coffee. And they now offer bar and restaurant supplies. Check out tvcoffee.com. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
Appreciate that. Kevin Miller, KIDO. Just around the corner, live local coverage about the election, everything that matters to you with me, Kevin Miller. Let's go to Jonathan Savage. He joins us now from London exclusively. Brought to you by Fox News Radio. Mr. Savage, good to have you with us.
Hello, good morning. Nice to speak to you.
Yeah, we've got a lot going on in the world today. Where are we going?
Yeah, we're going to Lebanon and we're going to Israel because that really is the epicenter of the ongoing conflict in the Middle East right now. It was Friday when Israeli airstrikes battered the HQ of Hezbollah in the southern suburbs of Beirut, and when the rubble was uncovered and the smoke was cleared inside that crater were the bodies of 7 senior Hezbollah commanders, among others. It included Hezbollah's leader, Hassan Nasrallah, a major victory for Israel to eliminate the leader of probably Iran's fiercest proxy military, the Hezbollah militant group described by Israel, the United States and others as a terrorist organization, and Hassan Nasrallah described as an arch terrorist by the Israeli government today. So a very significant blow for Hezbollah.
Well, I mean, this guy, and it's odd because he was responsible for the Marine Corps bombing, the billets bombing in Beirut in the early 80s. And he had pretty much been allowed or had not been able to be held accountable for things. He was a living legend in the Hezbollah Iranian-backed community.
Yeah, I think it was 241 U.S. military personnel, including 220 Marines, died in that bombing in Beirut more than 40 years ago. And that's why President Biden described the strike against him as a measure of justice for victims of Nasrallah. But he was not just a man with his fingerprints on the past. He was a man who was very much of the present and looking to the future. And Iran, his main benefactor, they say that his death will not go unavenged. So people are looking to what this will mean for the future of this conflict. What Hezbollah will do, it insists it will fight on. What Iran will do, it insists that Israel will be punished for this. And what Israel will do, Israel insists that its fight is not over and it will not be over until it achieves the aims of its war.
Well, you remind me of the 80s when Israel did carve up Lebanon because Lebanon was fighting between the Christians and the Christian Lebanese and the Muslim Lebanese, and then Israel said enough of this madness and they went in. We're talking about a land invasion possibly, and Israel wants that buffer zone, and it appears that Israel is the only one that's going to make that happen.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Israel, unfortunately for them, they don't have a great record fighting Hezbollah in Lebanon. That long war, the occupation, and since 2006, for the last 18 years, Hezbollah have pretty much had free rein to build tunnels to store missiles and rockets and to prepare for the next war that appears to be building up head of steam right now. Both sides have spent the last 18 years preparing for the next conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. There are tanks massing on the border. Senior military and political officials have made comments suggesting that ground troops going into Lebanon is imminent. And in fact, there are reports that Israeli special forces have been operating, carrying out raids in Lebanon for months in preparation for a much larger operation.
Well, and when you think about this, the international reaction now, Jonathan Savage, you talked about the Iranians, but the Iranians made a statement over the weekend that there used to be rules, and now it appears there are no rules.
I think Israel decided after October 7th last year that it was going to throw the rules out the window. And of course, since then it's been conducting its war against Hamas in Gaza, which is still going on almost a year to the day. We're about a week away from the anniversary now. And it's really, it hasn't continue with the kind of momentum that you might have expected it to have. It doesn't look like a victory for Israel is immediate there, which is, I think, partly why some people are worried about the prospect of another war on the northern front with Lebanon. It's a battle which Israel is conducting on many fronts, because as well as Gaza and Lebanon, they are attacking Houthi rebels in Yemen with airstrikes over the weekend. And all the while, we've had U.S. diplomats and leaders from all over the world urging restraint, urging all sides not to escalate. But I think what we've seen in the last year is that American influence, international influence on Israel under its current Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, that influence is not as strong as perhaps we thought it was.
Well, and then you take a look at America. The Houthis have been attacking us for quite some time, and we've had a tepid response compared to the Israelis. The Israelis are, I don't think they're going to stop. Now, it'll be fascinating to see. Benjamin Netanyahu was over here, and I think he got the message. A lot of people are speculating that Harris is no fan of his, Biden is no fan of his, Donald Trump may be, but, this thing has to be taken care of possibly before the election. If Harris is elected, they might continue to cut off the spigot. If Trump is elected, it'll be different. But how are U.S. elections, do you think, or your experts that you speak with, impacting Israel's decision, if at all?
I think what people are saying, Kevin, is that the U.S. government would prefer it if there was not a war before the election, because that could be painted as a failure of American diplomacy, not just because of the fact that they don't want a war, because they fear what Iran might do. They fear multiple fronts being opened up and Israel coming under attack from Iran, and Israel attacking Iran, and the U.S. getting involved, having to defend Israel, as of course they insist they would do. Ironclad military support is what we always hear from the White House, the State Department, and the Pentagon. So I think that's how it plays in. The U.S. government will probably continue to attempt to restrain Israel because it ranks Hezbollah and Hamas as terrorist operations, terrorist organizations. The U.S. government doesn't have any diplomatic interaction with them. They don't have conversations with them. So that limits their ability to try and influence matters in the region.
Jonathan Savage joining us. Kevin Mill in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Finally, Zelensky did the world tour. Any reaction from his going to the munitions plant, or Vladimir Putin, or the latest in Ukraine?
Yeah, Volodymyr Zelensky was over in the United States last week because of the UN General Assembly's big debate, where he made his appeal to world leaders, and he talked about how, in his view, Russia is preparing to attack Ukraine's nuclear infrastructure. And he threatened, he said that this would threaten a major catastrophe. Because of what's been happening in Israel, I think that Volodymyr Zelensky's words perhaps didn't get as widely shared as he perhaps might hope he would have been. It was very interesting to see that Volodymyr Zelensky met former President Donald Trump on late last week, and then Volodymyr Zelensky spoke to Fox News in an interview on Saturday and said he received very direct information from Donald Trump that he would support Ukraine in the war against Russia if he's re-elected. A lot of people have been suspecting that Donald Trump would change America's perspective on the war in Ukraine, but Volodymyr Zelensky is trying to suggest confidence that American support would continue. So I guess that remains to be seen.
Jonathan Savage, final question. Have we seen the Netflix McMahon series yet?
Yep, I've seen it all. Last time I spoke to you, I think I've seen most of it, but now I have seen all of it. And Yeah, the last episode was fascinating. It really turns to focus on more recent events and the lawsuit against Vince McMahon. It is just a shame that couldn't be covered in more detail, that they weren't able to speak to the people who have made those allegations. But I think people will walk away from watching this documentary with a maybe not a sense of who Vince McMahon really is, but certainly a better understanding of the person he wants us to think that he is.
At one time, very successful, but what it cost. I'll give you my grade in a minute, even though you don't want it. What grade would you give the overall series?
I would give it a B. I think that it was interesting. I think if you didn't know much about the history of Vince McMahon and WWE, then you would be fascinated, even if you weren't a wrestling fan. But if you did know quite a lot, there wasn't that much in the way of new insight, partly because Vince McMahon really put up that front and put across what he wanted you to get.
I agree with you. I'd give it a low C minus, maybe a D plus.
Okay.
It just seemed to regurgitate a bunch of things. There wasn't a lot of criticism of the Owen Hart death. I thought, once again, being a homer for Bret Hart stole the show. There should have been more of him. But there wasn't a lot of critics of Vince McMahon. It was, well, I did it this way. Well, no, Vince, you ripped off the pay-per-view from the Crockett's. You know what I'm saying? There wasn't a lot of... Hold on. I found more fact-checking with Donald Trump than I did on this Netflix series.
I expect Donald Trump to be bringing that up at some point as well. I will say what I did think was fascinating, and that was probably quite new, was seeing Shane McMahon's relationship with Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
That whole father-son dynamic, the desperation to prove to his father, to make his dad proud of him, that was something that you probably could have read between the lines watching the storyline happen on TV over the years. But to see it so blunt and so starkly laid out, the looks in their eyes, the hugs, it was that I thought was the one thing which I came away from the documentary thinking, gosh, that was different.
Well, and you're right. I do stand corrected. Shane McMahon, number 1. Bret Hart, number 2. Jonathan Savage, until the next time, thank you, sir.
Speak soon.
All right. There we have it, the latest Netflix documentary. By the way, are you someone you know, or someone you know struggling with hearing loss? Remember our friends at Hearing Connection. Don't wait any longer to get the help that you need. Did you know that if left untreated, hearing loss can lead to social isolation and depression, and even lead to an increased risk of developing dementia? Hearing Connection is now offering a 30-day risk-free trial of the latest and greatest hearing aids, the Signia AX. Don't let hearing loss hold you back any longer. Call now for a free hearing evaluation and a risk-free trial of the new Signia AX. Call 208-488-3255 today and start enjoying life to the fullest again. That's Hearing Connection locally. 488-3255. That's 488-3255. Hearing Connection. Okay, everybody's getting ready for the big VP debate. Are you? A lot of people are saying, well, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. What do these people ever really know on these Sunday shows? Well, I don't know, Kevin Miller. You sit there and watch them. Well, yes, I sit there and watch them. I go to church. I watch the shows. You know, sometimes your spouse will say, do you ever do anything? And don't tell anybody, but, when I'm watching the shows, Mrs. Miller says, you need to go clean the backyard because you've got these dogs that run wild. I'm watching the shows. I'm working. It's a great gig if you can convince people it's work.
Who is kind of that folksy guy, but he hasn't really been a coach for many, many, many years. Is that the Tim Walz we'll see? And we'll see the attacks come, just as Emmer said, Gavin Newsom in a flannel shirt.
Yeah, I was really struck by that, Martha. I mean, the bottom line, right, is that J.D. Vance, his biggest vulnerability might be the one that he goes on offense on, which is authenticity. If he called Donald Trump, the leader of his ticket, America's Hitler at one point in a private message to someone back in 2016. If you flip-flop on an issue as fundamental as whether or not Donald Trump is comparable to America's Hitler, then it's going to be pretty hard to accuse someone like Tim Walz with his folksy Midwestern charm of being the flip-flopper in the race. And I do think it's the classic Donald Trump. He's a huge believer, that you don't sit and play defense, you go on offense. This is the biggest liability for J.D. Vance.
Wouldn't it be nice, and I guess this is the rules of modern political hardball, but wouldn't it be nice if somebody just said, hey, man, I'm Minnesota Waltz, and I'm going, JD, whether we agree or not, congratulations on coming from the background that you did, being a role model, helping your mom, becoming a Marine, graduating from the Ohio State University, shout out to Dr. Livingston, graduating Yale, becoming a senator. You're a role model, even if I disagree with you. And then JD could say, Minnesota Waltz, thank you for being a teacher. Thank you for inspiring so many young people. Thank you for putting tampons in fourth graders' bathrooms, boys' bathrooms. Okay, I digress on that. Sorry, it was a little Joe Biden coming out of me. However, wouldn't it be nice if they said that? And they could agree to disagree. And here you have the New Yorker's, whatever her name is, who has written hit pieces and books on Donald Trump, going back and forth about J.D. Vance. And J.D. Vance said this, J.D. Vance said that. And I understand that. Look, J.D. Vance is our pick. He's a good dude. Donald Trump went all in because he wants the future of MAGA to rule the Republican Party. Again, I would have gone with Yonkers, Yonkin from Virginia, just because I think that you got to balance the ticket. Am I selling out to the establishment? No, but you want to get rid of any objections to Donald Trump being elected. You bring in him, I don't know, Reagan picked Bush, why not Haley? And then then it's game over. But Donald Trump, when people say, why does he do this? Why does he call Kamala Harris deranged? Because he can. Political rules do not apply to him. They don't. A couple topics we've been talking about, the controversy involving Boise State Volleyball that is being hailed by conservatives, and getting ready for the big VP debate.
The Midwest nice between these two fellows is going to give way pretty
Dude, I was born in the Midwest. They're not nice. They'll punch you in the face.
darn fast.
Ugo, they will punch you in the face. My friend John Mounts, do you remember John Mounts? John Mounts, like Kevin Miller, was born in Ohio. And I go, look, dude, I've spent a lot of time in Ohio. And you ever go to a place that you know you're in trouble? You ever go to a place like a sleazy part of town, or you go to a bar and all of a sudden you go, ooh, there's a lot of tough hombres in this place. And you're going, I think I'm going to get out of here, exit stage right. So John Mounts, because he's such a nice, passive guy, he goes into a McDonald's in Dayton, Ohio, and the guy almost wants to beat him up. That's not Midwest nice. That's Midwest punch you in the face. And he some guy goes, John Mounts goes, I'm sorry, sir. Yeah, I am in line. Well, I noticed you cut. Yeah, I did cut in front of you. What are you going to do about it? I'm just going to sit here and get my little Happy Meal. Yeah, I'll give you a Happy Meal. That's Midwest nice. What we're going to see tomorrow is a brawl.
The Midwest nice between these two fellows is going to give way pretty darn fast to a fairly contentious debate. And look, there could be a moment, you play the great line from Lloyd Benson there, that we think about 20 years from now, or it could be forgotten in 20 hours. I think either scenario is plausible. We're in the era of Trump. Politics revolves around Donald Trump, I think, Martha, in the sense that Tim Walz and J.D. Vance, I'm just not sure that that's going to be the main event for the vast majority of voters in this country. I do wonder, though, does this debate make Trump say, you know what, I'm not going to let J.D. Vance and Tim Walz have the last word. I want to get one more debate in before this thing is over.
Yeah, there we have it. One more debate. This debate is going to be interesting when we see about this. And here we have all the ne'er-do-wells in the network going, oh, it's going to be horrible, it's going to be this. J.D. Vance can handle Norah O'Donnell and Margaret Brennan. J.D. Vance can handle just about anything. Minnesota Waltz, I mean, again, here's our advice from Patriot Ray, from Tea Party Bob, from Paulie, from Subaru Jerry, and so many others. Certainly not from this guy. No, we're not going to get advice from this guy.
369, the goose drank wine, the monkey chewed tobacco on the streetcar line. The line broke, the monkey got choked. Kevin Miller and all his crazy buddies went to heaven.
Yeah, no, we're not getting advice. If it gets too bad, I wouldn't answer any questions. I would pull a Reagan. And Reagan was so good that he would take over these things. And I would say, look, if you want an America, if I'm J.D. Vance, Wow, you call Donald Trump Hitler. Oh, there you go again, Margaret. Are you going to pull the fact checker? Actually, I'm not even going to engage with these people. They're fake news. They're fake news. What I'd like to say to you, people that are struggling in Springfield, Ohio, East Palestine, Ohio, Aurora, Colorado, is help is on the way. But they're not going to let me speak. If you notice, they're fact-checking me 17 times, and they're letting Minnesota waltz all over the place. What you need to do is decide, are you truly better off now than you were 4 years ago? I wouldn't even answer their questions. I would just appeal to the American people. Why not?
I have to say, I don't think I can recall a time that the two vice presidential nominees really seemed to dislike each other this much, even though I don't think they've probably ever even met. But going back, I can't think of it. Biden, Palin, no. Cheney, Edwards, no. I mean, they really seem to...
No, just the tone and tenor, though.
I'd say Ferraro Bush, but I'm an old man. Subaru Jerry, my man. What up, Subaru G?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a couple of comments this morning, Kevin. I woke up to find out that Joe Biden sent another $8 billion to Vladimir Zelensky for his payoff for the big cover-up over there on his family's dealings. And meantime, we've got people suffering all through our southeast, and not a mention from the left about it. Maybe they'll throw them a $700 check like they did to the folks in Maui when they lost everything in the fires. I don't know.
Good point. The American South is dying right now because of the hurricane, and where's Joe?
Well, he's busy writing checks to Zelensky.
He is. He loves that Zelensky. Subaru Jerry, anything else you'd like to share?
Nope, got to go to work. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you. Very good point. We'll talk about it next. Where are the priorities? 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Listen anytime on the radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM, or anytime on the free KIDO Talk Radio app. That's 4 times I've hit that button. It doesn't work. Kevin Miller goes back to, Minnesota Waltz versus J.D. Vance. And on CNN, and I love giving you the clips on Sunday, here you have Scott Jennings, who will now command a big money because of just his acerbic comments that really hit home. He's still a member of the establishment, but really giving it to the liberals. And let's hear what he had to say.
Chortle from your friend Scott Jennings over here.
I'm sorry.
What you expect, Scott?
What are you chortling about?
Oh, well, first of all, I don't find them to be consequential. Second of all, Walz is a buffoon. I'm sorry. This guy, he's the only school teacher in America who brags that none of his students can get into an Ivy League school.
He's a buffoon. Ouch. Let's go to pro-life. By the way, did you know it's official pro-life month? It is the month of pro-life organizations. And in honor of that, it is pro-life. Boy, you didn't think that I would recognize you as having an official month now, did you?
No, you didn't. But anyway, on this debate coming up, I don't think Vance will do it because the boss doesn't want him to do it. But he could just really hammer Walz. He could just say, "Well, Mr. Walz, you're the governor of Minnesota. You allow abortion up to birth, and maybe even after. They say, if the baby was intended to be murdered, then you can just put it on the table and let it die, and not give it any nourishment or any attention. And if kids around the United States, their parents don't want them to transgender, they can flee to Minnesota, and your judges will take them under their wing and use Medicaid funds from your state treasury to help him transgender. Now he could just blast him right out of the water, but I don't think he's going to do it, but that's what he ought to do because Waltz is such an idiot. I mean, I can't believe that some guy coming out of western Nebraska going to Minnesota would be such a pervert, but he is just really a terrible guy. And so anyway, hopefully Vance will get him on the moral subjects, but maybe that's not in his agenda, but it should be because we have to make America moral again, and that if Trump loses the election,
it will be because he did not say make America moral again. So that's all I've got to say.
What do you make about Boise State saying no to San Jose State because of the man who's a woman?
Yeah, I heard about that. Well, they have to do that. I mean, boys and girls can't be playing in the same games. I mean, of course, if it's archery or darts or whatever, I mean, that doesn't count. But
I don't know, man. I heard that you throw like a girl.
Yeah, I probably do. I just throw left-handed, and that's like a girl. But anyway,
aren't all liberals left-handed? Are you a closet lib?
No, I'm right-handed.
I heard you're a lib. Yeah.
No, I'm not a lib. I've not been a lib forever. I've never been liberal on one position on anything that I can think of, and I'm not going to be. And
you're not selling out?
No, I'll never sell out.
I heard you were going to hang with Walls.
Yeah. No, I can't believe that guy. And then his wife to be saying when they were rioting, she likes the smell of the burning tires. That is so ridiculous.
No, I've been around burning tires. Not a good smell. Avoid the stink. More coming up in a minute. Quick strap break. KIDO Talk Radio. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. From the Idaho Pizza Company studio, heavy, steady traffic on the freeway coming out of Candy County into Ada County. Earlier accident down near 13th and Front. They have that cleared up, not causing any problems there. You're looking good inbound on Chinna Boulevard this morning. Dealing with backed up drains can be costly. Perfect Plumbing, Heating, and Air will clear your drain for $29, providing you with unbeatable home comfort without breaking the bank. Call or schedule at callperfectnow.com. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
Appreciate that, Dave Burnett, as we talked about our top business story. DirecTV buying Dish and Sling for only $1. What does that mean? We'll talk about it coming up tomorrow with our friend Dave Petzo. Remember, complete financial news from Fox Business. You get that here on KIDO Talk Radio. And, of course, Dave Petzo, Money Matters, Saturday, 8 to 10. Coming up next, more on this Boise State volleyball issue. I know Lars Larson is geared up for that. Catch him today at 4. We'll talk to him in less than 30 minutes. Kevin Miller reminding you, Beacon Plumbing brings you Fox News only on K. You had to say something you forgot?
Yeah, I forgot to tell you. I got to talk to Bill Cunningham last night for about the 5th time I've gotten on with him. He's quite the professional. He's something that I would look up to if I was in the business. And I just thought I should mention that because you're right up there with him.
Well, thank you. Bill Cunningham from WLW and hosts a national show on the weekend. And he talks like this, yep. And you're a great American. And Bill Cunningham, still at it.
That's the guy. I can't get on, for some reason I can't get on with Sean Hannity. He's hard to get on to.
He's a tough one, that Hannity.
Yep. Anyway, I'll let you get back to your job. I thought I should mention that to you.
Well, I appreciate the compliment, and we're going to work hard to try and earn that praise, brother. Thank you.
Okay. See ya. Have a great day. Bye.
You as well. You know, we proudly talk about being a faith-based community here on KIDO Talk Radio, and this is something that maybe a lot of people will ignore. But here you have the state of North Carolina and the parts of Georgia as well, and Florida devastated by Hurricane Helene, and they have North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper on, who I knew during my time in the Carolinas. A Democrat, could have been the VP, but Kamala went with the waltz. I would have been very worried if Roy Cooper was the VP nominee. And Kamala Harris doing a great job making sure that Josh Shapiro that would outshine her, Roy Cooper that would outshine her in selecting Minnesota Waltz. But let's take a listen to how the folks a continent away are dealing with this devastating tragedy and being a role model of resilience for all of us, from Idaho to Boone, North Carolina.
North Carolina, Roy Cooper, Governor, my heart is breaking. Everyone's heart is breaking for people in your state. I mean, you described last night the situation a devastating catastrophe of historic proportions. And I have to say, knowing you for a long time, you are not one for hyperbole when you speak that way. Talk to me about what's the latest there and what is making this one so bad.
Well, this is an unprecedented storm, and it's causing us to have an unprecedented response. We are coordinating a multi-state, multi-local, federal response where we are surging search and rescue teams to help rescue people who are still stranded but can't communicate because cell phone service is down. We're working to surge supplies in. I will be heading in this morning. We are bringing even more supplies, surging them into Asheville, airlifting them into areas that are unreachable by land. The emotional and physical toll here is indescribable. I will be talking with people this morning. I'm going to head to one of the hospitals, to a mass feeding site, to get one-on-one from people what's happening to them right now. I will be taking with me FEMA Director Criswell, who will be with us. We plan to Starlink and talk with President Biden while we are there. I talked with both President Biden and Vice President Harris last night. They pledged their full support. This is going to be a tremendous effort in the short run, but looking at it in the long run, with the hundreds of roads that are destroyed, communities that were wiped off the map, we have to make sure that we get in there, are smart about rebuilding, doing it in a more resilient way. But right now we're concentrating on saving lives and getting supplies to people who desperately, desperately need them.
You talked about, I think the latest number I saw was last night was there are 280 roads that are closed. Closed makes it sound like quick. I mean, some of these roads are completely decimated and wiped out in North Carolina. Put that into perspective, because it seems that some communities are completely cut off.
Yeah, a lot of communities are completely cut off, and that number has gone up this morning. It's very difficult to tell with all of the floodwaters. And by the way,
so there we have it, the governor of North Carolina, and one of the great states to live in. I think that, and I've lived in 20 states, 25 states, both as an adult and as a kid. And it would be Idaho and North Carolina, home of the nicest people in the country. And unfortunately, because we live in a world where we're calloused by video and social media, where we're calloused because we can look at the devastation going on in Boone, North Carolina, Asheville, North Carolina, or go to Beirut, Lebanon, and we view it like it's a video. Let me correct myself, a video game. And these are real-life people that are hurting. These are real-life people that have lost everything. If you were watching 60 Minutes last night, they were focused on the great insurance ripoff. And there were people in, was it Florida? I think it was in Florida or North Carolina, where they paid their insurance. Their insurance adjuster came in, and their home was totaled. The insurance adjuster said that they should have been paid $250,000. Do you know what their insurance company paid them? The insurance company paid them $15,000 minus the deductible, which was $5,000, and some type of fee. So they got either $11,000 or $9,000 to replace their home. Now, I know there are a lot of people that have moved here from the state that won't be mentioned, and they're denying people insurance. So, and I know there are a lot of good insurance people, and insurance rates have gone up, and I love Dave Petzo, but he's defending it, and it's like, hey, if you're paying for something and they're not going to honor it, and these are hundreds of claims going on throughout the country, primarily on the East Coast, then why buy insurance? If they're not, you're better off putting it into a mutual fund or something of that nature. But the natural disasters are so bad, the insurance companies can't cover it. Years ago, and I would like to believe that I did this for public service, but selfishly I did it because, like everybody in the media, I was trying to make a name for myself. And it was Hurricane Katrina, and I had signed a deal, which meant I got to get exposure on a cable news outlet throughout the state of North Carolina. And I was on the state's second oldest stick. I was over 30 people. And I sent myself in to do the morning show from Hurricane Katrina. And I got to Slidell, Louisiana. And it was the most devastating thing that I would see. And and I wish I could swear, when this blank happens, you go into, it would be like the equivalent of you're driving down Eagle Road. And every other business is totally decimated. So Chick-fil-A might survive, but In-N-Out would be destroyed. The Village would be destroyed, but Big Al's might be saved. And you go into places, and I can remember going into an abandoned casino. And when you go into these places, look, I had no security. It was just me and my camera. And hopefully I wish that I would save those files. And you go into like brand new neighborhoods, and then you start seeing the looting. And then and you think, wow, dude, something happens to me, I'm done. Because there ain't nobody coming in. And how they're describing the state of North Carolina. And North Carolina, unlike Louisiana, is not exactly below the floodplain. You're talking mountains. Boone, North Carolina, Asheville, they're in the mountains. Many people, our friend Charles, who runs and owns Portico Pharmacy in Meridian, he loved going to the Biltmore estate, one of the most world-renowned estates ever, built by the Vanderbilts. It's very much similar to life in Idaho. And could you imagine driving somewhere and then all of a sudden you can't get anywhere? There's no power. There's no this. It's like the 4 Patriots ad comes to fruition, or all the scary ads on Newsmax or Fox or on KIDO Talk Radio. It bleeping happened. That's what's going on in North Carolina. I was looking at some of the coverage again. I have friends in Augusta, Georgia that say, you ever get tired of Idaho, we'll hire you tomorrow. And Augusta, Georgia, home of the Masters, the roofing companies are going crazy. They can't keep up because nobody has a roof. And then we have the phrase that a lot of us live by the grace of God, there go I. And I hope that we appreciate, and I understand that you have struggles. I totally get it. But they pale in comparison to what's going on east of the Great River right now. And I'd like you, again, if you're driving your car, just continue on, but I'm going to pray for a minute. Lord, please help our friends in North Carolina. Please help our friends in Israel and the devastating toll going on. Lord, please let people know that are either locally or wherever that are fighting illness, fighting disease, fighting in the hospital, that they feel that they're alone or abandoned, that they're not abandoned through your faith, especially those folks in North Carolina. Those people that have lost everything, they haven't lost everything because they still have you and their families. Please let that relief get to them and the rebuilding starting, and let them know that you love them and they are loved by everyone here in Idaho and across the country and around the world. In your name we pray, Jesus. Amen. That's what's needed. And it's so funny because, and again, I want to thank you and like I jokingly say, and sometimes I think they get the joke, the Godless Corporation that allows me to say this. Because our leaders should be saying this. Donald Trump, he's going there. Joe Biden should be going there. Suspend the campaign and go in there, Kamala. You're winning anyway. Instead of doing that phony photo op at the border, get in there and get dirty. Help those people. I sit there and I remember, and if I were smart, which I am not a smart person, I can remember driving into Slidell, Louisiana, and I crashed on a buddy of mine's couch. So when you go into these places, and thankfully the roads, Katrina didn't wipe out the highways. When you go into these places, literally it's with insurance adjusters and church groups. And I always admired, I wish FEMA had the compulsion and the ingenuity and the tenacity of church groups. And I'll explain that in a minute. So you can't get gas in these places. So literally, as I'm filling up, It's the only time I rented a car and the tank wasn't full. I would get enough gas, and there were people that were going to go deep into Louisiana where they actually had gasoline tanks strapped to the roofs of the cars because they knew no one was going to help them if they had any trouble. And I drove to this place in Slidell, Louisiana. The roads were closed, and like a dummy, I was going to try to get into New Orleans. Thankfully, the Lord and the authorities were looking out for me. And I go into this grocery store, and there's nothing in it. Empty shelves. It's like the pandemic times 20. And I go in there, and people are like looking for food. There's nothing there. People are donating clothes, and there's nowhere to put them, so they're on the dried out concrete asphalt in this parking lot. And I go into this Smoothie King guy, and he had a franchise, young dude. And I said, hey, man, how are you doing? Oh, it's tough. Kevin Miller, it's tough. And I said, what's the message? And the message is the South will rise again, which is very popular in the South. But America, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida will rise again. But you have to have that faith in God. And you have to have that faith in we are not letting you down. Do we see that in our national politicians? Do we? Do we see that in our national politicians? Quickly, what's that, Sweet William? Wrap this up. You wrap it up, Sweet William. Go wrap yourself up in some saran wrap. The church groups. And many of you do this. Many of you do mission work. So I'm driving around Mississippi and Louisiana, and I get to go home to my beautiful dogs, Bama and Carolina, God rest their souls. And I go into, I go to this church, school, and people are living in the school. And I think the next day or the day after, Oprah did a live shot from this place. And they were living in classrooms because they had nothing, all taken away, all giving the glory to God. And before FEMA could figure out what the blank was going on, you had people, the Baptist and the LDS, maybe the Catholics as well, got to go with the home team. But the Baptists were down there. People, hey, I'm sorry, I'm going to take a week off from work to go serve food to these people. And it was the Baptists and the Christians that were feeding the people well before FEMA got there. And I'm sure that's what's going on. So please keep those folks in your prayers. And thank you for allowing me to pray with you for them. You are not alone. Be not afraid. Kevin Miller. I don't even know how to introduce this young man. I think he sent me 5 emails over the weekend. He was just ready to talk to you. His name is Lars Larson. He's ready to go. You can catch him today at 4. But this is Lars, unleashed, uncensored, and raring to go. Good morning, sir.
Hi, good morning, Kevin. How are you? Well, I tell people that First Amendment Fridays don't end my week. My week just keeps on going. My granddaughter was with us this weekend, and she's a joy, but when she's busy or asleep or whatever, I do prep for the show. If you don't do prep for the show, heck, you're not ready.
No, I'm with you. There's a big one that I'm going to get to at the end of this segment, but first, okay. Where would you like to begin? Boise State getting the national news or somewhere else?
We could go to Boise State because that's very much front and center about protecting children and protecting young ladies, first of all. And protect them from what? We want them to have all the opportunities. But when you say, if you want to take part in athletic competition at high school or college, tell your daughters, tell your granddaughters, they may end up, because of woke DEI politics, they may end up competing against biological males. And there, while all sports, I think, have the possibility of injury, when you put biological females up against biological males who call themselves female, you have a much greater potential for injury. If you don't believe me, look up the video of the woman at the Olympics, not an American, but the woman in the Olympics getting punched in the face by a biological male who says he identifies as female, but he's got the muscles of a guy. He punched her in the face, knocked her to the canvas, and she just dropped out of competition. And we've seen there's one young lady who was a volleyball player and was injured so badly she had to not just drop out of that competition, drop out of competing in sports at all, because the ball hit her so hard in the face that it did permanent damage to her. Now imagine your daughter or granddaughter being in that situation. You say, well, sometimes sports go wrong. You know, you can have injuries in skiing and horseback riding and basketball, football. I mean, you know, football, contact sport, basketball, not as much of a contact sport, but still somewhat of a contact sport. But when you put men up against women, there is a physical difference between the two that apparently Democrats and liberals want to ignore. And when they ignore it, it may be literally at the peril of the young ladies in your family. Now, are Americans going to put up with that? Is Boise State going to put up with that?
Well, I wonder if Boise State had a choice.
Tell people the details of what happened there. Because
but before I get to that, because our governor, that a lot of people may or may not like, he was the first in the nation to sign the Protect Women in Sports Act. Riley Gaines showed up. Obviously, we see her all over the place. She did a big rally. Then they had another executive order. So Idaho has been at the forefront here. States have copied our legislation protecting biological women against biological men competing in this. So Boise State being a state university, they decided to be in compliance with the governor's order, and this is my take on it, that they would forfeit a game against San Jose State because you have a person at San Jose State that was a man and now is playing as a woman. And that's the speculation. Boise State did not confirm that. Boise State said, we're canceling the game and didn't really give anything else. Everybody else...
And why not confirm it? You're a public institution. You take money from the taxpayers. There's a law to be complied with. The law is aimed not at something esoteric, but at protecting the safety of young ladies. Why would Boise State stay silent when they could say, we are doing this in compliance with the law, number two, but number one, to protect the safety of young women on our campus? I would think the college would want to do that.
Well, Boise State has had a long, nefarious history of embracing the liberal agenda, and Boise State has a problem. It has had a problem in the past with conservatives. They recently lost a lawsuit involving Big City Coffee. I saw that the $4 million to the coffee shop serves them right, doesn't it? That they had to pay $4 million because they opposed a coffee shop that was just doing things that were pro-police. Yeah, well, and again, Lars, you know this because you're an international businessman. You deal with people at the highest levels. No, I'm serious about this. Oh. They're going to appeal. That they should have settled. It drove the woman out of business. Local lady that had dedicated herself 30 years to serving people went to this institution, local business, and you had a lot of woke kids decided to run her. And the university, again, the court found them liable. So,
and they should have been like. What was it, Oberlin College, that went to war with a local bakery shop that had been there, I think, for a long time. And the bakery shop kept having theft problems, and they finally identified some of the thieves, and the college declared it racist because the thieves happened to be people of color, and the college badmouthed them, and it hurt the business badly, and the badly sued over the bakery served them with a lawsuit, and they won. And I think it was tens of millions of dollars because it was such an outrageous case. And when these public institutions start to go to war with society itself, when they say we don't really want to comply with this law, so we just won't tell anybody why we forfeited the game, is that serving the public? Or do you have I understand that when it's say a personnel issue, you fired somebody from your college over personnel matters that are required by law and sometimes by contract to be private. I still don't have to like it, but I understand why. But in this case, this is complying with a state law and trying to keep young ladies secret. Are they afraid to say that out loud?
Well, dealing with the liberal NCAA, I would say they would. I think the state has already been crossed off the list of having any big-time collegiate activities because of the law.
Well, would you send your kids, and now Boise State's better because of that law than a lot of colleges in a lot of America where they just simply ignore the issue altogether. And if the young ladies get hurt, too bad. Or if they lose. Now, Kevin, I joked with my producer. I said somebody should make a comedy movie sort of in line with Dodgeball or one of those about some coach who takes over a failing team, and I even said women's volleyball, and said when he takes it over, he's told, this is your last stop as a coach. You've fallen from the heights down to the depths. You're now coaching women's volleyball, and this is maybe a guy who's been disparaging of women's sports altogether. And they said, you don't have a job after this if you don't, win. So he goes out and recruits a bunch of ringers in the form of, say, failed male basketball players. Say, hey, you want your scholarship to continue? Come over and play volleyball for me, and just say you identify as women. And except in this, it's not funny when young ladies get hurt, either physically hurt or hurt by being forced out of competition, forced to finish third or fourth or fifth because a biological male beat them. And Kevin, you and I both know the numbers. It's nothing against women that women can't compete with men in many of the physical, athletic pursuits. And the number I like to use is that men beat the 4-minute mile time in the 1950s, and they are now well under the 4. When I say well under, 10 or 12 or 15 seconds under the 4-minute mile. But the 4-minute mile was a big deal at the time. And women are still not even close. I think they're at 4:09. I don't follow track and field that closely, but it's a very definitive way to say, are you saying that women cannot compete against men in many athletic, maybe not all, but many athletic pursuits? And the answer is yes. Women have never run as fast as men, and based on the history of about the last 70 or 80 years, they may never run as fast as men. Men will always run a bit faster. So is it fair then to make women compete in track and field versus biological males who say, I identify as a girl?
Well, and then you wonder where the feminists are.
Well, they're nowhere.
Yeah.
They've absented themselves. Have you noticed all the feminists who came forward to criticize Donald Trump? Who's got a history? That's fine. How about Doug Emhoff? Doug Emhoff, the husband of Kamala Harris, who had her own stupid stuff this weekend down at the border. But Emhoff comes to the Northwest, and he gave a speech in Portland. And, of course, all the legacy media are saying, oh, he gave this impassioned speech about women's reproductive rights. Do you know what I would have asked him? Was your view on women's reproductive rights directed or informed at all by the fact that in your first marriage you got the nanny pregnant?
Nobody likes it when you get the nanny pregnant.
Well, and his first wife didn't like it.
No.
His marriage ended. And now Kamala Harris, who has her own history of, getting her first two positions in politics, to be blunt, on her back, first two jobs she got were because her boyfriend, Willie Brown, got them for her. And Kevin, think about this. Her first position on a commission was given to her by Willie Brown 30 years ago, and she made $120,000 a year by serving on that commission. I mean, that would be good money today. It was really good money back then.
Yeah, that's back when $120,000 was really popping.
Actually, was real money.
Was really popping.
But does anybody ask Kamala Harris about that? The fact that would you advise young ladies to get into politics the way you did, Vice President Harris?
Well, it's all about working at McDonald's.
Yeah. Well, and that. Do you know why? And one of my favorite writers is Derek Hunter, who's Derek Smith. I'm sorry, Derek Smith is married to one of my former producers. Great, one of the best producers in America. Heather used to be Heather Smith, now it's Heather Hunter. But Derek wrote a piece this weekend, so I'll give him credit. But he made the point: why is it important that she's lying about McDonald's? And she apparently is lying through her teeth about working a job at McDonald's. Well, okay, who cares? So what? Here's what's the so what. She wanted to somehow show that she grew up as a lower to middle class kid. She did not. And Kevin, I think you and I have talked about this. So when you try to present yourself falsely to the public, should you be called out for it? So she says, I worked at McDonald's like everybody else. Kevin, you and I both run into people who say, hey, Lars, do you remember when I was one of your interns? Or do you remember when we worked together? I worked at a furniture store when I was 14. If somebody worked at McDonald's with Kamala Harris, do you think, way back in the day, do you think they'd, and she's now running for president of the United States, she is vice president, do you think they'd remember? Oh, yeah, I used to work with her.
No, I agree with you. But and then just to dovetail,
nobody remembers her.
Right, but just to dovetail on that, by the way, our great friend Lars Larson joining us, Kevin Miller. The weird on KIDO Talk Radio, the weirdest thing about this is she never mentions her dad, and her mom and dad were married.
Yeah, well, and her dad was a Stanford University professor who, as I told you, when she claims to be a middle-class kid, her dad's paycheck at the time was $20,000 a year, which sounds like minimum wage today. But back then, $20,000 was more than twice as much as the median income in America. And her mom was a cancer researcher, so she made a good paycheck. I can't find out what her paycheck was, but her dad was getting paid $20,000 a year to be a professor at Stanford University. And they did not live in Oakland. She was born in Oakland because that's where the hospital is. It'd be like somebody from, some other part of, well, except it's not the same. But if you said, "Oh, I was born in Boise," well, that doesn't mean you grew up in Boise. You might be from Sandpoint. You might be from Coeur d'Alene, but if the hospital is there. So she was born in a hospital in Oakland, which is very blue-collar community, was then, is now. But she grew up in Berkeley. And do you know why she doesn't want to say she grew up in Berkeley? And then she doesn't at all want to mention that, well, for about half a dozen years, she lived in Canada and went to high school and graduated from high school in Canada. Because it doesn't make her sound very middle class, and it doesn't make her sound very American. And I'm not going to debate her citizenship. She has born in America citizenship, then she can run for president because she was born in America and her parents were here legally. But her dad's family owned slaves in Jamaica. So she comes from a slave-holding family. She did not grow up in Oakland, California. She did not grow up a middle-class kid. She went to a private high school, or a private kindergarten. Did I tell you this last week, Kevin?
No, Lars.
Back in the day, there's a school called the Berkwood School in Berkeley, and it's where the rich people send their kids for kindergarten. Now, don't let anybody drive off the road when they hear this. But today, I couldn't find out how much it cost to send little Kamala Harris to private kindergarten back in the day. Today, that school is $29,000 a year for freaking kindergarten.
Well, that's more than romper room. Let me hold on, Lars. Let me jump in here. Our great friend Lars Larson, because we have a limited amount of time. We want to get a couple of other things.
Okay.
Your thoughts on the border and what the vice president was wearing and why it's so important.
Well, I just point out that if you're going to visit the American border, do you wear a necklace that costs more than the average man or woman makes at a job in America today? She wore a $60,000 necklace to the border. But the more important, and that just shows bad judgment. She has no judgment. She has no clue about what average Americans deal with. That's problem number one. Problem number two, Friday, and I got the info in time to talk about it, although I'll talk about it more today. Friday, we find out from Customs and Border Protection, Tony Gonzalez, a member of Congress, pried this information loose for them. How many convicted criminals has Joe Biden told his Border Patrol to release into America in the last 3.5 years? Kevin, take a guess.
Oh, I can't even try.
450,000. And if you say, well, Lars, they were probably writing bad checks or something. No. How about 18,000 murderers, convicted murderers? Now, on top of the 450,000 convicted criminals that Customs and Border Patrol knowingly released into America, there are another 222,000 accused criminals, people accused of murder and rape and assault and serious crimes. So you've got a total of about 650,000 either accused or convicted criminals in 3 years, Kevin. Now, imagine even a country as big as ours with 340 million people, imagine what effect you have on that country when you release 2/3 convicted and or accused criminals. And you say, well, hold on, why'd they release them? Because Biden wants them in the country, and he doesn't want to turn them back. Now, if you tried to apply to come into the United States as the legal way, and you said, oh, by the way, I'm a convicted murderer, I imagine your chances might not go to zero, but it'd be pretty close to zero that we're going to say, well, fine, come on down. You're welcome to come in. We would turn away people like that because we don't even want people in this country, and this is when I say we don't want, it's written into the law. We don't want people who are even likely to end up on welfare and food stamps. It's called the public charge rule or law, and it's in federal law, and it says you have to show, if you want to immigrate to the United States, you have to show that you are unlikely, there's no way to guarantee it, unlikely to become a public charge. And what that language means in the law, unlikely to end up on welfare, food stamps, Section 8, Medicaid, all the poverty programs. Why? If you come to America, we don't want you to be, we want you to add to what's here in America. We don't want you to take away. And if you come in and you say, well, I'm immediately going to sign up for welfare and food stamps and all that good stuff, and I'm going to cost you, it'd be like a family in Boise whose daughter falls in love with a total deadbeat, or son who falls in love with a total deadbeat. It could go either way. And they say, so what does your fiance do for a living? Well, she doesn't work. Well, has she ever worked? No.
Right.
Did she finish high school? No. She's kind of a deadbeat. So in other words, everybody else in the family is productive in one way or another, and you're going to add an unproductive member to the family. Does that seem like a good idea? No. I'm not saying that everybody who comes into a family has to be out there.
No, I'm with you, Lars.
Lars, I got another question.
No, I got two more. We love you, and that's why we love having you on, but... and usually I have nothing, so I'm trying to add something to our segment with our great friend Lars Larson.
You bring a lot, Kevin.
Anyway, let me get to you on this one. So we have the big debate. How do you think it's going to play out? What's your prediction, sir?
Well, at this point, maybe they're trying to lower expectations, but Tim Walz staffers are apparently saying he doesn't like the fact. Tim Walz does not like the fact that he's going to have to debate J.D. Vance. He says, this college-educated lawyer type. Now, maybe all they're trying to do is diminish expectations, and then if he does halfway well, then it'll be viewed as a win. But I think J.D. Vance is going to eat Tim Walz, Tampon Tim, for lunch. And especially Vance is sharp and he's smart. And he's well informed, and Walz just keeps sticking his foot in it. Remember when about 10 days ago, he said that Kamala Harris worked as a big part of her career as a prostituter. Yeah. Those kind of mistakes are not going to go down well. She was a prosecutor. But I think it was a Freudian slip, frankly, because she did prostitute herself to get her first couple of jobs in politics. So, yeah, when J.D. Vance goes up against Tampon Tim, and even if the moderators do what they did in the last debate between Trump and Kamala Harris, and they give all the easy questions to Harris and just fact check J.D. Vance to the nth degree, I think Walz is going to have a tough time. He comes off as a buffoon. Mm-hmm. He likes to brag that he was a coach. He couldn't be coached because he had a criminal record. And nobody wants to mention that. He put tampon machines in the boys' bathrooms in Minnesota. He pretended to be a conservative in his congressional district when he was in Congress. And he actually had a good rating from the NRA and all the rest of this, but he was pretending to be something. And when he was in the National Guard questions are going to come up, when he ran around for 2 decades and claimed to be a retired command sergeant major, and he wasn't.
Right. One final question for Lars Larson, the big one to represent our friend Bob Novak, God rest his soul. Okay, Lars, the FCC has just approved George Soros buying Odyssey. You're on all these stations across the country. Are we and then, then we hear that he might be buying this parent company as well. He's on a buying spree. What do you make of Soros controlling one of the larger radio groups in America?
And that's Odyssey, like 220 stations out of 13,000, but out of about 2,500 spoken word stations. Spoken word meaning news talk, news, and sports talk are the single biggest, spoken word is the single biggest format in radio. It's about a quarter of all the radio stations, and he just bought 10% of it. I always assume that whatever George Soros is doing has a political agenda attached to it. He isn't just saying, let's buy these things. They might be a good investment. We'll make some money. Right. He's doing it out of a political motive. And his political motivation, just to back that up for people who aren't familiar with George Soros and his links to the World Economic Forum, this guy has helped to elect DAs throughout America, district attorneys, who just ignore the law and say, I'm not going to prosecute people for serious crimes. That's a problem. because Soros and his liberal buddies wanted to change the laws, and they couldn't get the laws changed the way they did. So they said, well, why bother changing the laws? Why don't we just change the people who apply the laws? And the result has been Chicago. The result has been L.A., George Gascon, Kim Fox in Chicago, Mike Schmidt for Brains in Portland, who just got bumped out by the voters, thank God. But his agenda has always been political. So if he's buying the stations, it's out of a political agenda. What could he do at that point? He could say, we're not going to carry conservative talk. He could. Now, he'd be taking his little investment and running it because there is no other talk but conservative talk. A liberal talk's been tried. It's gone bankrupt every time it's been tried. People don't want to listen to that nonsense. And I mean, if you say, well, Lars, that's just your opinion. No. Well, the marketplace, they have pumped millions, tens of millions of dollars into liberal talk, and it doesn't work. There are a few individuals like Tom Hartman that are somewhat successful, but the rest of it died multiple times. And conservative talk has become the dominant format in America. What does that tell you about America?
Well, no, I'm with you, Lars.
America's a center-right country.
I'm with you. Quickly, 10 seconds. What do you make of this if he does it? What's he going to do?
I think he will start to mess with the formats. Now, whether that'll make a difference in the next, 30 days, 35 days, I don't think so. But is his agenda to clamp down on free speech? Yeah. Play the soundbite later for your audience from John Kerry saying this First Amendment thing gets in the way of effective governance. Talk about frightening words from a former presidential candidate, not a good one, but a former presidential candidate, former Secretary of State and professional gas bag, who specializes at marrying rich women.
And on that note, Lars, we got to run overtime today. We appreciate you, brother.
Hey, I appreciate you. Take care.
Thank you. Lars Larson, your call's next. Kevin Miller.
So good to hear your voice. I wanted to comment about the girls' volleyball team.
Yes, sir.
They not only are all-stars in my book, but they deserve an A for anatomy, A for psychology, an A in finance because they know when they're wasting their money, and A for leadership. And let's hope this gives an example to the rest of the world that San Luis Obispo really stands for slow. Thank you.
All right, Dennis, thank you for the call. Your comments more coming up next. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. From the Idaho Pizza Company studio, traffic on the freeway still dealing with that minor fender bender right there just before the 5-mile overpass going eastbound. Have another accident working on 10 Mile near McMillan right near the Walmart, and an accident at Federal Way near Micron's Gate A. Discover why Karcher Senior Living Community is so special. Visit KarcherSL.com and learn more. Schedule that tour today. That's KarcherSL.com. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
By the way, we want to salute everybody that worked on Saturday to make the game day experience so awesome. Thank you very much for your work. We appreciate you. Phone number's here, 580-5436-580-KIDO. We'll go back to volleyball in a minute. We'll explain the do's and the don'ts concerning Boise State's decision to not play the game against San Jose State. Remember, and we have that story for you on our website, KIDOTalkRadio.com. You remember that the bottom line is they didn't say why they did this. They just said they canceled it. And you have speculation from folks at Outkick, the Daily Wire, the Daily Caller, and others saying it was because you have a man who was born a man, now he's a woman playing for San Jose State. Your calls are welcome on that issue. We can go on and on about that. Also, your thoughts on the big VP debate. And we've asked you to pray for our friends east of the Great River on the East Coast, trying to respond and revive and recover from Hurricane Helene. Over the weekend, Saturday Night Live came back, and what an issue. It's very rare we give you this clip this is long, but Joe Biden, remember when you say Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
It is Joe Biden, right? That's how we pronounce his name?
Joe Biden.
Well, the folks at Saturday Night Live, they have a different way of pronouncing his name, and it was the return of Dana Carvey. You remember him from his days as George H.W. Bush, Maya Rudolph, also as Kamala Harris, and it was the cold open. Now, the cold open is there's no this, there's no that. It's just right to it as if it's something. So what we're going to hear is Kamala Harris interviewing or introducing Joe Biden and Dana Carvey. I mean, if they had been playing this for the last 6 months, well, I think Trump would be up by 10. Let's take a listen.
everyone.
Just in case you missed it.
We couldn't have gotten here without one man, and his name is Joe Biden. Get on out here, Joe Biden.
Folks, that's right. A lot of people forget I'm president, including me. But guess what? And by the way, I think I did a pretty good job. I passed more bills than any president in history. But folks, we still got work to do, no joke. I'm being serious right now. Come on. And guess what? And by the way, the fact of the matter is, the rich don't pay their fair share. They gotta pay the fair share. We gotta build back better. Build back the better, the better, the better, the better. Build back the better. Can't believe it's not butter.
Thank you, Joe Biden. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, again, here you have Dana Carvey doing Joe Biden better than Joe Biden. And we have Maya Rudolph playing Kamala Harris, and she's trying to get him off the stage like what happened in real life. Real life is actually pales in comparison to this portrayal, but the bottom line here is this actually, I mean, they're really showing us, we're all laughing at this, but this actually happened. And this is what's going on. And this is the great cover-up, right? When you have somebody who's just not all there, now that's okay if they're, you know, the guy in the corner, but if they're the leader of the free world.
And I just want to say thank you, Joe Biden. Thank you for putting country first and for handing over the reins.
I didn't want to. They made me. And guess what? And by the way, the fact of the matter is, no joke, this is serious right now. I mean, it's serious. Anyway, in conclusion, me and Vice President Harris are the same.
Oh, okay. Great stuff. Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Goodbye, Joe. Goodbye, Joe Biden.
There we have it. The takeaways. Joe Biden. Joe Biden. So hilarious. And you got to go, Joe. We're the same. Nope. You got to go, Joe. It's time for you to go. Just like we saw in real life. Just like we saw, and just what, like, as we witnessed, the open primary didn't happen. If you're a Democrat, and we all get that the Democrats want to win, we all get that the Democrats, I mean, have you ever wanted so much, so fast, so this, so that you're willing to do anything? Again, pardon me for a crazy, wacky, zany story. 10 years ago, we did the Victory Tour. 10 years ago, Mrs. Miller and I went to a place called Nashville, Tennessee. And as you can tell by my portly physique, I love the food. I love the food. The food is great. The food is wonderful. And so if you've ever had White Castle burgers, and you can get those burgers at any place, but it's a predominantly Northeast kind of thing, maybe a little the Midwest. They're salty. They're this, they're that. They're amazing. And so there's a place in the South called Crystal's. And it didn't matter where Crystal's was. It was, again, they're burgers like what you've had from White Castle. And I'm just sitting there going, this is great. And I would do anything for a White Castle Crystal's burger. And I just lost perspective. I go, oh, eat. That's the way the Democrats are with this campaign. They know that if people just look at things in an objective way, it doesn't really make sense. Nobody voted for her. Nobody voted for her. Remember the Democrats when Barack Obama was running wild?
Thanks, Obama.
Yeah, Barack Obama was running wild, and the chickens were coming home to roost.
America's chickens coming home to roost.
Great enunciation there from Reverend Wright. However, they wanted to get rid of the real people from voting. They called them superdelegates. Superdelegates! Liberal. They don't trust the people. This is their wonderful dream coming to fruition because nobody wanted her. 6 months ago, everybody thought she was not a smart person. Today, they pulled the coup on Joe. Didn't want to go. They did. But therefore, I am. They pulled a coup. The Democrats didn't vote for this person. And now, not only are they trying to sell her as something, and a lot of people, sorry to say this, are stupid. They're buying the act. I mean, who would you like to hang out with for a night? Minnesota Waltz? They can tell you fake stories about being in the Army National Guard? Kamala, who Lars Larson described her ascent to power? J.D. Vance, self-made guy? Donald Trump, an inspiration? At least we can say that our candidate is not Gavin Newsom in a flannel shirt.
Yeah, Tim's been a complete disaster in Minnesota, and what's happened is he's so good at being this folksy, nice, kind of down-to-earth guy until people get to know him and his policies. I don't know if you know this, but his old congressional district, where he played this character for several years of being kind of a folksy, ag-friendly outdoorsman, he lost it in both of his gubernatorial races. In the last one, almost by 10 points. He's not well-liked because once you get to know the real Tim Walz, he's like Gavin Newsom in a flannel shirt.
He's Gavin Newsom in a flannel shirt. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
See, nice, kind of down-to-earth guy until people get to know him and his policies. I don't know if you know this, but his old congressional district, where he played this character for several years of being kind of a folksy, ag-friendly outdoorsman, he lost it in both of his gubernatorial races. In the last one, almost by 10 points. He's not well-liked because once you get to know the real Tim Walz, he's like Gavin Newsom in a flannel shirt.
From ABC's, liberal ABC's This Week with Martha Raddatz, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. So we're reacting to Joe Biden from Saturday Night Live. We're reacting to Tim Walz. He's a disaster. He's a disaster. And we all know he's a disaster. And the economy is a disaster. And here we have Nancy Pelosi saying the economy's great.
Speaking of the 2024 election, there are a lot of independent and conservative voters who don't necessarily love Trump. They're not Trump loyalists, but they are voting for him because they feel like Democrats haven't done a good enough job tackling inflation, tackling immigration.
Well, they haven't. And you hear this person, I believe this is on public television, taxpayer-supported, state-sanctioned like Pravda, public television. Imagine that. And that'd be great if they would have, our perspective on point counterpoint. But I'm sitting here looking at this, and they're asking Nancy Pelosi. They're almost apologizing for the question. Yesterday, I was at one of my favorite places to hang out. Now, a lot of you, for the crew over here, I'm sure it's watching television, playing games, golfing, swimming, whatever. For me, it's going to the supermarket. There was somebody in front of me, and maybe they were shopping for the family. $300. And I'm thinking, dude, I hope that lasts you a month. $300, and you're thinking, they're doing a good job on the economy? So much so that you have Albertsons wanting to be swallowed up by Kroger because Kroger can get them better prices. Hopefully it's a better life for the workers. Come on, man. There's no way. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Think about that for a moment. And they're saying, she's apologizing. Apologize to the people that are working 5 jobs and still can't make it.
But I will say this. We have done the best job of tackling inflation than any developed country, and it is down low now, so low that the chairman of the Fed could lower the interest rates. We did a great job, and I think that we have to do better in communicating that.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Nancy. Some people call their wives Miss Terry, Miss this, Miss that, Miss Nancy. No, it's Miss Pelosi. A good job on the economy for who? Yeah, for people that are, addicted to the stock market. Stock market's great for the working people, for the people that want to buy a house. You did a lousy job. Horrible job. God rest his soul, he's still alive. Jimmy Carter is going to be 100 years old tomorrow. This is making the Carter economy seem competent. More on that in a minute. 580-5436, KIDO. Let's get you to work safely and on time. KIDO Talk Radio Traffic. Hello, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin, from the Idaho Pizza Company studio. On the freeway, things beginning to thin just a bit, still running a little bit heavy for you as you're coming out of Candy County into Ada County, finishing cleanup of an accident on 10 Mile right near McMillan. Treasure Valley Coffee is celebrating 40 years of serving Southern Idaho's business community. With the latest coffee equipment and over 80 varieties of coffee, they now offer bar and restaurant supplies. Check out tdcoffee.com. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
Well, again, this should be a nonpartisan issue from everybody about Joe Biden. They did a great job on the economy. For whom? That's Nancy Pelosi. I watched the Sunday shows. I don't know why. But they were going, why is J.D. Vance so unpopular? Why do people not like J.D. Vance? Well, let's look at the media coverage. When 95% of the coverage is negative, you're going to have a negative perception. It's not like Minnesota Waltz is running away with it. He's not. But it's the difference between working in a place that likes you or working in a place where you have support or working in a place where they're like, here you go, buddy. You know how it is. We've all been to business meetings where, everything is a place, everything is good to go. You don't have to work as hard because you have the infrastructure and you have people that have your back. Life, we would love life to be objective, but it's very subjective on the ideas of success and failures. And then here we have, Gavin Newsom in a flannel shirt, horrible record with the military, horrible record with the economy. I guess he's a nice guy. I guess he could be Gavin Newsom. No, he couldn't be Gavin Newsom's daddy because Gavin Newsom's in his mid-50s. He's like the relatable Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom's the good-looking dude. Hey, man, one wife was a prosecutor, could have been a model, or was a model. Second wife, very attractive. I'm sure she's very intelligent. Looks were secondary for them. And then you got Waltz, who's like who we really are. There's Waltz hanging out, at the sporting goods section because he's a sportsman. Really?
As people are introduced to Tim Walz and understand that this guy is for free health care, a free college tuition, he's given driver's licenses to illegals. Thousands, as we have now learned from ICE, are rapists and murderers who are in this country. He wants an open border just like Kamala Harris. These two are both soft on crime and soft on the border.
Yeah, I would call him Mr. Softy. No male likes to be called Mr. Softy. Remember Andrew? Remember Andrew, the guy from Boise Medical? Remember that guy? We used to interview Andrew about what happens when you're Mr. Softy. And we would have people going, oh, Kevin, you and the ED ads. Ha, 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 Kevin Miller. They're soft on crime. I think that's a good way of putting it out. You got to use the humor. Anyway, coming up, we will continue on. Jared Halpern will join us. Yes, the return of Jared Halpern from Fox News in Washington, D.C., the only morning show in America. Well, we'll just settle for the state of Idaho because that's all that really matters. Actually, we'll just settle for you that are listening, that we go to D.C. and we go around the world. And more importantly, we go to you. You call us and we hear from you. Kevin Miller in the Morning, brought to you by our friends at Beacon Plumbing. They bring you Fox News Now, KIDO Talk Radio. I would love for you to check them out. We'd even invite you to join our App Yap Club, free apps, we're yapping, and I don't think I've seen any app yappers today. Again, our prayers going out to those folks in Georgia, Florida, and North Carolina. They're saying this devastation has rivaled Katrina, which is amazing when you think about it. Coming up, Jared Halpern will be joining us from Washington, D.C. We're going to get his thoughts on the weekend of Vice President Harris. She did go to the West Coast, but she didn't come here to Idaho. Think about that. And this is a fascinating thought. Could we see Kamala in Idaho? We've seen Joe Biden. We've seen Merrick Garland. Haven't really seen any prominent Republicans because they say, you know something, Kevin Miller, here's the bottom line. We don't need to come to Idaho. Idaho is you guys have it taken care of. Of course, our complete coverage of ranked choice voting as well, concerning that's the biggest election issue in Idaho, whether or not the state will adopt ranked choice voting, and we'll see how that plays out. Coming up, it is the big debate between vice presidential candidates. On one hand, you have Tim Walz, who we've discussed. On the other hand, you have J.D. Vance. You've got a lot of things going on. Let me share this with you quickly while we're waiting for Jared Halpern. Many of you, and sometimes we get great stories from the Babylon Bee, which is a Christian website. A lot of humor. People describe it as the Onion for Christians. And they do a tremendous job. And it's very well written, well creative. The videos are great. The podcast, not so much, but you can't have everything. From the Daily Wire, the Babylon Bee filed a lawsuit against the state of California on Monday after Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom signed a series of deepfake laws that targets outlets that publish satire and parody. Our country was founded on satire and parody. The complaint filed in the U.S. District Court for the Central District of California and shared with the Daily Wire, they say exclusively, okay, begins by noting that in July of this year, Newsom tweeted that a parody video of Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris should be illegal. The legislature heard the call and passed 2 laws that forbid political expression under the label of materially deceptive content, the lawsuit asserts. So in California, and it should be no surprise to you folks that have moved from California to here, that Gavin Newsom gets mad at something that he disagrees with. And now they passed laws against it. And it's funny when you take a look at the left and how they've gone after the Second Amendment. They completely ignore the Second Amendment. Now we're seeing the left come after the First Amendment in California. And remember, as California goes, so goes the nation. The complaint explains that one of California's new laws will require social media platforms to become state snitches and force them to field reports about user posts with materially deceptive content and then remove or label them. Governor Newsom defended the new state law, saying they focus on AI-generated content could undermine public trust through disinformation, but buried one of the new laws and the requirement for satire and parody content to either be clearly labeled or removed. So what we're saying is people are not bright enough to understand that the Babylon Bee is a parody site, so you have to put a disclaimer on it, like with cigarettes, like you have to do with Zyn, like you have to do with smokeless tobacco. Who would have ever thought a mind would be very dangerous? CEO Seth Dillon of the Babylon Bee said that one of the new California laws especially targets satirists, such as writers at his company, by requiring them to put disclaimers to let you know that this is a parody that you're reading right now, which completely stifles and kills the joke. If you're unable to publish satire without putting disclaimers all over it, are we going to face potential penalties if we don't do that? That's a serious issue. So we're fighting back in every way that we can use laws against this to clamp down on free speech. Yeah, he's right about that. And this is what the Harris administration is going to bring us. More on that in a minute. Looks like Jared gave us the Heisman. That means more time with you and me next. 580-5436, Kevin Miller. Charlotte, can someone tell the VP and Joe Biden to stop allowing this? This just in, 8 alleged migrants have been arrested in eastern Tennessee for robbing flood victims as the local community trying to recover from the flooding. Local Americans are helping their neighbors in need. However, some migrants are capitalizing on this tragedy. Are you kidding me? Speaking of kidding me, we're going to get back to the First Amendment in a minute. But first, Kamala Harris asked by one of the NBA podcasters, tell us about your economic plans. Because remember, there's so much flipping money in sports right now, so much in big money, so much that you can sit back and, you're going to have to make investments. I mean, you have athletes making $50 million, $100 million a year.
From a show to a whole entire company, what is your economic plan moving forward for people who are living paycheck to paycheck?
Yeah, because these guys, they've come up and they've achieved, and now they have their own media companies. Everybody has a media company. Sweet William has his media company, Sweet William Productions. So they're going to ask her, hey, what's your plan? And they want to vote for her. But do they really?
And struggling for groceries and rent and homeowners.
So, look, I grew up, so my sister and I were raised by our mother. We lived for a long time in an apartment on top of a child care center. That child care center was actually owned by a woman who lived 2 doors down from us, Mrs. Shelton, who was, by all of our accounts and feelings, our second mother. She helped raise us.
Yeah, what about your daddy? What about your dad? What's with this narrative of no daddy for Kamala?
And so she was a small business owner. So I'll start with the small business, and congratulations on what you guys have done. I, from a child, knew who our small business owners are, right? I mean, you're business leaders, but you're also civic leaders. You take seriously your voice and how you can mentor, how you can grow, right? Communities and the sense of communities.
Yeah, these guys are just sitting there going, look, we have to make payroll, we have costs, we have all these things that we didn't have to worry about when we were players. We want to take this generational wealth and continue it for generations to come. What is your plan? How bad are you going to tax us? How bad is it going to be? What is your plan to help those people in terrible situations? What is your plan?
I love our small businesses. And so a lot of my work in terms of building and growing the economy has focused on small businesses. And my vision overall is we need to build an opportunity economy in which we increase opportunity for all, including small business owners. So a lot of my work, even in the Senate, was about increasing access to capital through our...
Right. By the way, ask any small business person in Idaho, and it's not small business. It's non-corporate. It's locally owned business. Ask anybody what happened when the Biden-Harris regime took over. All those tax breaks that really allowed small business, local businesses to flourish were taken away. And we have 2 words, 3 words, 4 words for you, Joe Biden. Thank you, Joe Biden.
Our small businesses, and in particular through our community banks. Mm-hmm. So I've been responsible for billions of dollars more now going into our community banks because they're in the community, and then they know who's in the community and where the talent is and who's doing good in the community, what the community wants. Mm-hmm. And so part of my plan as president...
we ran out of time for her plan as president. We still don't know what her plan as president is. But we are talking about a couple of stories, and I know Glenn Beck will have more on this. I don't know if any of our other talent will. But Glenn Beck has been at the forefront of this, the breaking news that one of the largest radio mergers, acquisitions has happened. The FCC has approved George Soros acquiring Odyssey out of bankruptcy. Look for that to happen, and we'll see what happens to our brothers and sisters in conservative talk. You might have heard that clip that we shared with Glenn Beck, where Glenn Beck is talking to the FCC commissioner, saying that this was not a normal approval of a company out of bankruptcy. And look, this is America. And in America, you can buy things. If people had a problem with people buying things, then quite frankly, they should have done their very best to buy them. If the conservatives aren't going to buy the media, then all of a sudden you're going to have other people that are going to buy it. So we'll see how that plays out, and we'll keep you updated as far as we can. Now, we were talking about California's new law that would require sites like the Babylon Bee to out themselves as parody. So you tell me if you would really believe this. And they are suing the state of California. This is from the Babylon Bee. A McDonald's spokesperson has gleefully confirmed that the burger giant's turnover rate is now no longer the highest in the world. As of recent, the explosive spike in turnover at Hezbollah has officially put the terrorist organization well past McDonald's notorious 250% turnover. According to Mickey D's, did you get that? A McDonald's spokesperson whose family has been associated with fast food corporation for 3 generations, the new development was a welcome surprise to the burger joint. Quote, "We tried to give the folks at Hezbollah a call to thank them for their hard work, but they wouldn't pick up the phone for some reason. Dees said as he signed a plaque reading, "We're not number one anymore." Quote, "It was touch and go for a while. We've been losing them almost as fast as we can teach them to scoop the fries. I wonder how Hezbollah manages to do it over there. I do hear their business is really booming of late." Again, the brilliance of the Babylon Bee. Do we really need a disclaimer saying that this is parody? Of course not. By the way, Gavin, why don't you focus on your economy and crime and the illegals as opposed to going after the good people of the Babylon Bee? Hezbollah representatives did not respond to an invitation to comment via phone, telegraph, pager, or even fax. At publishing time, McDonald's has sadly pulled back into the number one spot after local cashier Jerry Campbell quit to pursue a new career at a car wash. Oh, to be able to write like that. Oh, to be able to have that type of, to be able to have that type of vibe, right? And when we're talking about, as we said before, the First Amendment, which we're seeing under attack, Lars Larson earlier, if you missed it, you can always catch the podcast. Lars Larson talked about John Kerry. You remember him. John Kerry wanted to be the president of the United States. John Kerry saying that, these social media companies make it really tough to build consensus. Really tough to build consensus because they're doing all this information. And it would be nice if we could get a handle on this. You see what I'm saying? And I will tell you this, the social media companies that shadow ban conservatives, they do some good. In fact, remember a couple of weeks ago in Pennsylvania where Kamala Harris pretended she was meeting with people, was filming a campaign commercial, and they threw everybody out of this restaurant. There's a chain there called Primanti Brothers, some of the best food ever. Not really good for you, but really, really delicious. So when we're talking about equal time, remember Kamala threw everybody out to film a campaign commercial. J.D. Vance decided to come in and just hang out with people. And the folks that own the Primanti Brothers in this place called North Versailles, Pennsylvania, said, you can't come in because we don't want to have any campaign event. So what did he do? He wasn't allowed to leave the car because people, the owners there didn't want him there. He was there to support his no tax on tip. Thinking about this, so NBC reported Vance ended up staying in the parking lot and meeting with supporters. He also paid for their tabs. Quote, "We paid for everybody's food. We gave them a nice tip. And of course, when I gave him a nice tip, I said no taxes on tip." And you think about this, where people are afraid to have people in their restaurants because of the deep state, because of the liberals, not the conservatives. Let's see if we can take a listen here.
The manager went outside, told them they need to leave. They will call the police if he comes out. Unfortunately, he cannot come in. So what's going to happen is that they're going to take down our name, all our information, so the next time the kitchen crew's running out because everyone's canceling their orders. Everyone just canceled all the orders, and we're just paying for what we drank, and then everyone's leaving. But yes, unfortunately, Vance cannot come out of his car, cannot shake our hands, because Primanti Brothers does not want him in here whatsoever. So that is what's happening.
Now, this is happening all over the place. This is happening in Idaho as well. And when your rights are taken away from you, when you're told that you can't bring your gun in and you're arrested, when you're told that your speech is not welcome, when ranked choice voting becomes the law, and I'm not saying this to scare you, I'm saying that this is how it dies. They told him he couldn't come in, get out of his car because he would be arrested. Why would J.D. Vance be arrested for getting out of his car and going into a public place?
That we leave.
Yep.
We are now banned from Primanti Brothers.
Yep. Terrible. So there's the VP. This is the closest we're going to get to him.
They will call.
Outside the parking lot. We're taking names and phone numbers of everybody. Absolutely.
We paid for everybody's food. We gave him a nice tip. And of course, when I gave him a nice tip, I said, no taxes on tip. It's all right. Don't hold it against her. She just got a little nervous, but it's a great local business. Let's keep on supporting it. And most importantly, November 5th or before, go vote. Let's go.
Now remember, Primanti Brothers allowed Kamala to come in, and they literally kicked everybody out. Now, Primanti Brothers is a sports bar. And, you know, you go in there and you watch your favorite team. Obviously, there it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I know there are a lot of Steelers fans in Idaho and across America. So, you know, there should be a place where you can just go in. But you have people that are really, because of moves like this, they're eventually cutting themselves off because they will come for you. That's really what this election is about. And that's why Idaho has been targeted with ranked choice voting. The Republican Party is too successful. The Republican Party is too successful, so successful in Idaho that there's like 5 Republican parties within the Republican Party. And look, not everybody gets along, but we all believe on principles. We all believe that ranked choice voting is the wrong way to go. That's right. Ranked choice voting is the wrong way to go, in my opinion. Here, and who would have ever thought? Now, maybe if this is Berkeley, they're not going to let J.D. Vance in. But we're talking about a place where you can go in. He gets out of his car, he's getting arrested. And there was a police officer like right outside the SUV, and you're going, really? Is that how it's going to play out? I just want to hang out and have a good time.
Go enjoy your beer and ride your ATV and watch sports. We'll run the country.
It doesn't sound like America to me. Kevin Miller on your home for Fox News, KIDO Talk Radio.
Yeah, that is really sad what they did to J.D. Vance at that restaurant. What a joke. You know, that restaurant, I guarantee you, is going to lose a lot of business over that. And people are so confused about the way politics and the way our branches of government work. I think, you know, people don't really understand. It's kind of like when Kamala was sitting there saying, oh, you know, that border bill would have been signed. It would have solved everything, blah, blah, blah. You know, the executive branch has the power to shut down the border without a stupid bill. It's all we do. It's all the executive branch or the president has to do is enforce the laws that we already have on the books. And I think a lot of people are just confused. You know what I mean? They hear, you know, Democrats especially, you know, they hear Kamala talk and they're just confused. They don't really know what's going on. And the funny thing is, I just saw an article. I read an article. Tampon Tim. He went to the Minnesota. It was the Minnesota-Michigan game, and he got booed out of the stadium. And then he gave everybody the finger. I mean, I did hear about that. Yeah, people. I guess the Golden Gophers didn't like him. Yeah, they don't like him. A lot of people don't like him. And this ranked choice voting, I mean, I am seeing a lot of those yes Proposition 1 signs around. I mean, there's not a huge amount of them. I guess in a neighborhood there might be more in Boise, that's for sure, but people really just don't understand. You know what I mean? People really just don't understand. They take everything at face value and they don't look any deeper. And it's pretty sad. And then you got John Kerry going to the World Economic Forum. I was just reading that, and he was saying that our biggest roadblock to solving climate change is free speech, and we really have to do something about that. And then he was talking about creating a ministry of truth. What a joke.
Yeah, I remember that. The old Ministry of Truth. I remember that. That's been a while.
Yeah, these people are insane. And if people don't wake up, all these people that are for Kamala, they don't really realize it's like you're voting against your own economic power. You know what I mean? You're voting against your own family when you elect these people. And it's just like that Miller Minute commercial you did. I mean, that proves right there. She doesn't even answer a question directly. She just goes, we got aspirations and dreams, and I come from a middle-class family, and everybody mowed their lawn and stuff. It's like, lady, can you answer a question directly? Specifically, what are you going to do for the economy? And she can't answer it. She doesn't answer it. She knows what she's going to do. She's going to screw it up worse. It's a plan. It's a plan. And she's not in control. She's not running anything. She's she's got these Marxists and communists and wackos around her telling her what to do, and she's cackling, going, yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to do that. You know what I'm saying? It's just like Joe Biden. I mean, honestly, Joe Biden, she's scarier than Joe Biden, I think. I mean, that laugh of hers says it all. And she just sits there and just talks in these generalities. And, you know, I don't understand how people are buying it. I don't get it. It's scary. But we have to come out. We have to come out in waves, and we really got to shut down this Proposition 1. Everybody's got to shut that down. And I'm hoping that there's enough sane people that done their research that are going to vote in Idaho to vote no on that Proposition 1, because it's going to make our elections a circus. Ridiculous.
I agree, Eric. Thank you for the call and listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. The Gem State Patriot, Tea Party Bob, good morning.
Well, good morning, Mr. Miller. How are you today?
Living the dream. Always great to be back in action.
Well, I'm glad to see you're back in action. Just a few words here this morning. Did a little writing over the weekend, but talked about the number of criminals we have in this country. And so finally we are getting the real numbers of how many criminals Biden and Kamala have actually allowed to enter our country illegally. And I've said before, and I'm going to say it again, we're looking at a potential 2020 where we could see rioting, looting, burning of buildings in the streets of the sanctuary cities if this election doesn't turn out the way the Democrats want. You know, the Dems are not going to quietly go into the night, and everyone should understand that. I would not be surprised if they incite the illegals to cause problems by cutting off their essentials like food, shelter, and medical care before the election. Now, we now know how many criminals are in the country, but we don't know is if they are organized or have been organizing enough to totally disrupt our cities and the elections by scaring voters into staying home. You know, I would not put anything past these people, and I believe they would be willing to cause a lot of chaos and confusion if Kamala loses. Now, personally, I don't believe the polls, and I believe this could very well turn out to be another 2016 when just about all of the liberal media predicted that Hillary would win. And surprise, she lost. You know, the polls are not counting the voters who are not answering their pollsters' calls and those who are saying that they are undecided. So I don't think that Americans will except maybe for the true Trump haters, realize that if Kamala is elected, they would be subject to a constitutional and economic apocalypse, losing their freedom of speech, giving up their guns, dramatically higher taxes, restricting them from eating meat, forcing them to drive electric vehicles, and, of course, giving the illegal citizenship. I have just a few words about Soros. I did say that Soros would be coming for your network once he gobbled up some of the bigger fish. And now I believe the handwriting's on the wall. Remember, this clown used to be one of my clients. And as I say, he is doing the same thing now as he did back in the 70s. He's like a sump pump. When he goes after something, he goes for it all. He obviously has a plan and sees an opportunity of owning all of these radio broadcasters. And if you don't think he will change the venue of the program, you would be mistaken. This man is diabolical when it comes to taking companies over, as he is used to getting his way no matter what. What he is spending on these broadcasters is really not a big investment to him.
No, it isn't. So, again, our top story that we have, the FCC has approved Mr. Soros acquiring the broadcast company Odyssey, 3-2 vote. Now they will emerge from bankruptcy, and he has targeted a lot of other bigger companies, but there is a report that you and I shared on Background that he could be looking at this company, one of the best in the nation when it comes to providing services. So, I'm trying to think, what would we call you? Coffee Bob, and hey, the mayor of Boise is doing a great job on those roads, everybody. We should probably be practicing for a new format.
Well,
I mistakenly thought that they would be going for the the bigger fish. But that secret report I shared with you, hold on, without disclosing anything, does that make sense what I sent you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's very typical. He hasn't changed anything since I've known him. And I doubt that he would care if some of these broadcasters were to fail, or maybe he thinks that Trump will win and he will be able to turn them around and sell them as a conservative broadcast group, which I would not put past him.
Well, I think if Trump wins, and I do have some knowledge of the FCC, that all of a sudden the commission goes 3-2 Republicans. So that's how elections matter.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, I could see Mr. Soros and Jr. and his wife Uma coming in, and they'd say, "Okay, get your box." But that would add to the book. That would be and people here in the hallway would be cheering. So,
yeah, like I said, he almost always gets his way one way or another, and he's not afraid to go in there and put his bucks on the line.
Well, I mean, maybe you and I we could get a job at the country station, and hey everybody, here's Shania Twain. She's she feels like a woman in honor of Boise State Volleyball. Oh, I guess we couldn't say that.
See, I do believe that the next step in radio is going to be internet, because it doesn't have the regulations imposed on you.
Right, as he says that on the radio.
You never know.
Well, we appreciate that. Let's see.
Certainly,
Kent Goldthorpe saying, "That's right, little buddy. The roads are great. Go George." So Kent Goldthorpe appreciating the new format already. I'll say, "No, George." Here you go. "No, George, I was with you all the way. Those conservatives are bad. I just wanted to be your friend."
You're going to hear a lot of that.
Oh, no. Hold on. I tell you what would happen. It would be this guy.
369, the goose drank wine, the monkey chewed tobacco on the streetcar line. The line broke, the monkey got choked. Kevin Miller and all his crazy buddies went to heaven.
Yeah, I think that would be the new show, Liberal Steve.
That's what I was going to say. He could probably get a job with Soros doing one of those shows.
Well, Tea Party Bob, check out his work at the gemstatepatriot.com. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, my friend. Have a great day.
All right, appreciate it. So again, Glenn Beck will have more on this concerning Soros buying a company that I used to work for, CBS Radio. It was merged, and the company unfortunately didn't do well. They got rid of a lot of great people, unfortunately. A lot of great, iconic local personalities, and went into bankruptcy, and really no conservative picked it up, so Mr. Soros did. What he does with it, the world will be listening. By the way, for your entertainment purposes only, we do have some great interviews with the vice president, who's trying to be relatable. She's being interviewed by former NBA stars that are trying to give her the benefit of the doubt for your listening pleasure.
Look, from the time that the president called me and told me he wasn't running, I mean, it just like everything was in speedy motion. And I was not sleeping so well. And that one morning, I had, a few hours sleep, and I like to sleep. I just got up, and so I just went out and got a pork roast and started marinating.
See, time to work. Get to your happy place.
And my family happened to be in town, so they were very happy about the whole situation. But I just got up and everybody's asleep, I just got up and started cooking.
So the leader of the free world is forced to step down. And she grabs a pork roast and starts cooking. Imagine what happens when she's the leader of the free world. By the way, here's another one that is interesting. You ever watch The Sopranos? They just celebrated, the 25th year of The Sopranos. Sometimes you just want to put your feet up and have a good time and enjoy yourself. And who doesn't want to do that? Put your feet back up, Ugo. That's fine. You go ahead and do that. So you put your feet up. You're having a good time. And there's a scene in The Sopranos where the leader, Tony, he gets almost killed by his uncle. And then the second in command takes over. And that person can't handle the stress still. So what we're led to believe is when the world is exploding, the vice president grabs the pork roast?
Like, don't hear that. Don't hear that. I eat no for breakfast. That's my saying.
Well, I think, too,
I
we
eat
talked
no
about-
for breakfast.
Again, you're starting to hear the twang of a very unique accent. A very unique accent. She's cooking the pork. She's eating no for breakfast.
An incredible family and incredible friends. My best friend from kindergarten is still one of my best friends.
That's crazy.
Right? Stacey Johnson.
Yeah, that's dope. I love it.
We used to go to the clubs and her Father Seville.
Yeah.
Nobody believes she went to the clubs in the Seville. Liberal Steve joins us now, celebrating George Soros acquiring Odyssey Radio. Good morning, Liberal Steve.
Buenos dias, Idaho. And to all you dairy farmers out there, keep on pumping. I tell you what comes from this deal that'll make me happy is if they make it mandatory that all these people with these $500,000, $600,000 houses take the 3 or 4 dish antennas off their roof. It's just ruining the subdivisions. If I built another subdivision, I would make it mandatory. No one could have a dish or an antenna of any type on their beautiful roof. Period. Oh, it makes me so upset when I see those things. We live in the day and age when those are not necessary. Period.
Well,
That's
thank you
what
very
I'm-
much for that insightful comment.
Well, that's what's going to happen.
I know that you do follow the radio industry quite well. Your thoughts on Mr. Soros buying one of the largest radio conglomerates in the world, and the rumor is he could be buying more stations in Boise and beyond. Perhaps this company, perhaps some others. I know that you pride yourself on going behind the scenes in your beloved radio. What say you?
Well, he's a billionaire, and Kamala is going to up the taxes. I'm sorry. I just did a Kevin Miller. Kamala.
I thought it was Camilla. Like, chameleon.
It's Kamala. She is going to up taxes on all the billionaires and zillionaires in the United States. So Soros is probably thinking this is beautiful, beautiful tax deduction for him. Because he will write off everybody, including Kevin Miller, that you guys are a lost cause. He's losing money hand over fist, and you can't make me pay any taxes.
Well, that might be true for some people, but I can say that where we are, that's truly not the case. We're the
I think it is the case. It always will be the case.
We're the tip of the spear, and I would tell you if that was the case, but.
So who's taking over when Miller's gone?
We hear it's you.
Well, you're hearing wrong, because I would never take over anything when it came to radio. Radio is history.
Although you call into radio and you love radio, and in fact, you're sending me messages, and I go, why don't you call in? You go, I'll do that when I'm done with breakfast.
Well, yeah. Hey, you know what? Podcasts are where it's at. You can call into a podcast.
No, you can't. You can't.
Into
Podcasts are for sissies. Yeah, I said it.
You have a podcast.
The podcast is this radio show. And to all those people listening to this podcast, I love you. I appreciate you. But the fuel that feeds the fire for over 100 years in Idaho and around the world is radio. Not you're going, hi, I'm a podcaster. Oh, isn't that nice? There's Camilla.
Do you not have a podcast?
The company has a podcast called The Kevin Miller Program, available on YouTube, Spotify, and wherever you get your fine podcasts, even Apple TV. I hear that you actually, sometimes you'll go back and watch this show on Apple TV.
Not on Apple.
That's what I heard.
never watch anything on Apple.
Well, yeah, we have a podcast of the show, but we are not podcast exclusive. Basically, what a podcast is audio on demand.
I mainly called to tell Tea Party Bob to get his act together because he's going to have to order about 3 new handheld snow plows because that's how bad it's going to get in northern Idaho this year. Have you read what's coming up?
I don't believe in reading. I believe in speaking.
Well, this global. Anyway, you stay fired up, Miller, and I'm just saying I'm glad he bought it because now
apparently
all the dishes come off.
Apparently, you're out of steam today because you're on the run.
I bet you Bobby's got one on his roof, huh?
What?
Have you got a satellite on your roof?
Oh, I have 27.
Have you got a dish?
I have 27 dishes. That's what they call me, 27 dishes. Thank you for the call. Coming up, John Kerry says the First Amendment has to go. We really didn't get a lot of people talking about the Boise State Volleyball thing, which conservative media, we'll have more on that on our website, KIDOTalkRadio.com. We'll cover that story exclusively, the world's reaction. Here is John Kerry. Now, remember, John Kerry came very close to being the president. He's not speaking in Idaho. He's not speaking in Boise. He's speaking in a place called the World Economic Forum.
Dislike of and anguish over social media is just growing and growing and growing. And it's part of our problem, particularly in democracies, in terms of building consensus around any issue. It's really hard to govern today. You can't, the referees we used to have to determine what's a fact and what isn't a fact are kind of, been eviscerated to a certain degree. And people self-select where they go for their news or for their information. And then you just get into a vicious cycle. So it's really, really hard, much harder to build consensus today than at any time in the 45, 50 years I've been involved in this. And there's a lot of discussion now about how you curb those entities in order to guarantee that you're going to have, some accountability on facts, et cetera. But look, if people go to only one source and the source they go to is sick and, has an agenda and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence. So what you need.
Yes, you did hear that. John Kerry, former Secretary of State, saying our First Amendment prevents us from hammering it out of existence. Whoa. Are you kidding me? Now we go back to the vice president who tells us, well, she's got a lot of friends and she went to the club in the DeVille or the Seville.
Stacey Johnson.
Yeah, that's dope. I love it.
We used to go to the clubs and her father Seville.
Now, again, I'm not one to judge people, but let's say you're in your 60s. Let's say you're in your 20s. There are people that go to the club. There are people that they live the nightlife. There are people that do a lot of things. With all due respect to the vice president, this is just I think that she would go to the library, maybe to the coffee club. I don't see her going to the club, and why she believes that she has to sell people that. And to me, it doesn't seem very presidential either. Maybe I'm a prude.
Stacey Johnson.
Yeah, that's dope. I love it.
We used to go to the clubs and her father Seville.
Yeah. You imagine that you're at the club and maybe it's the disco playing or it's the big hair or hip hop hadn't started when she was younger. It started when I was younger, maybe a little after. So maybe you got Rapper's Delight. Remember the Sugar Hill Gang? Maybe it's the Sugar Hill Gang or maybe she likes Styx or Journey or what have you. And she's at the club with her best friend and maybe she just got done working at McDonald's. Maybe she decided to, get off after working the fry thing and, whether you work at McDonald's or wherever you work, sometimes you smell like fries. Other places you work, you smell like whatever. Or sometimes you're stinky. Nobody likes a stinky person. So can you imagine her, what would it be? Maybe she was wearing her Chick jeans or Jordache jeans or Calvin Klein's. She's at the club. And You know, maybe she put on some Jordache perfume. And by the way, if you have no idea what this is, just Google Jordache chick jeans. Did I say Jordache? Thank you. It was Jordache. It's a slippery slope with Jordache. And she's at the club in the Coupe de Ville or the Seville or whatever. And, I mean, I could see that, although we don't have any confirmation of this. It's almost as if this is the path that she's promoting. Wherever she goes, which some politicians can pull this off brilliantly if you're a person from the clubs or the streets or what have you, she was there as well. Never mind that the union people are not buying her.
But look at where Kamala Harris is today. She's only leading by 9 points. That would be the worst Democratic performance in a generation, 10 points off the mark of Joe Biden, who, of course, won 4 years ago, was sort of that union guy, Union Joe, right? Won it by 19 points. She's 10 points off his mark and the worst in a generation.
I guess Barack Obama must have been pretty bad because they say Clinton won the union vote by 30 points, Hillary Clinton by 12 points, Biden by 19, Harris by 9. That's probably going to be more like 4%, if that. Let's face it. If you have a brain in your head, and this is not disrespecting people that do not have brains in their head, just the common sense point of view, this is not the ticket for you. You know, you go back to George Bush in 92, it was the economy stupid. That's really what it is now. Anyway, you are not stupid. Don't go anywhere. Clay and Buck coming up. They're ready to go. Young Talk. The report of talk radio's demise is not happening. Those two young guys or youngish guys, they'll carry you through till Sean Hannity, who, like Kevin Miller, is not very young, along with Lars Larson. But we've got a lot of wisdom. Do appreciate you listening. We know you have a lot of choices. God bless. Keep the faith. And remember, Kevin Miller loves you.
Most tax pros leave a message.
It's Jane. I'm moving on to a TurboTax expert who beat your price. Adam Devine, tell him how I feel.
Hey, tax pro, she's been thinking twice. Best believe TurboTax will beat your price. This is a tax break.
Switch to a TurboTax Live expert and we'll beat what you paid your pro last tax season. Make the switch at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice. TurboTax full service only. Sign up by 12/20/2024 and file by 4/1/2025. Full details at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice.